Hey everybody, welcome. It's Wednesday, and in honor of all the people in chat who just went, "Ooh, cool, dad rock!" Yeah, hope you guys are doing well. It's today's going to be a little different. Not only do we have a guest that we've never had on the show before, and that I hope you all are going to be excited about, but Andrew Seidel reached out to me, and we're going to do a slightly different opening today because on Monday, um, Americans United and several other civil rights groups on behalf of over 24 multi-faith families, petitioned the United States Supreme Court to strike down a Texas law requiring public school classrooms to display the Ten Commandments. Essentially, there was a 9-8 ruling by the Fifth Circuit Court that allowed the Texas law to stand, and these groups are asking it to be overridden. And what we're asking you guys to do, there is a link that will appear at the end of both of these. I'm going to show you two quick videos. It's going to take about 6 or 7 minutes. And these are the videos that they're promoting to point out this isn't just a godless heathen thing. This isn't just a whiny secularist thing. This is important religious freedom issues. And when I'm done playing a couple of videos here, it'd be nice if you guys would stop over at au.org/10c. And there are links there to these videos on YouTube. And if you'll click watch on YouTube and get those some watches and views and share them so that people will get a better understanding of what's actually happening and what people are complaining about and why. And so I have two quick videos here on behalf of the two of the family groups that are involved in this lawsuit, and we're going to go ahead and get them up for you now.
We're not getting audio from that.
You're not getting audio?
Nope.
Well, all right. It's weird because the audio is going out on my end. Well, yep. All right. Well, shoot. Here, let's get the link up. That completely changes everything. I don't know why you guys aren't getting audio. It's being sent out. I can watch the meter. All right. So we'll skip past that for now, but I want to make sure that you guys get the link so that you can head over and check that out afterwards. This is, I don't know. There's the link right there. It's the AU Ten Commandments case site. It's au.org/10c, TENC. Yeah, typical Navy dude, my ass. My tech's working fine. It's showing up on the output. I'm going to suggest there's something else going on. But hey, that's all right. I'm fine with you taking a dump on the Navy right now. Not when I was in. But what's happening here is there are mixed faith families. There are individuals who are a number that are Jewish and Christian, Jewish and mixed faith families, and they're talking about how this is impacting their kids, how difficult it is to be walking in to school and being presented with essentially the state saying, you need to follow or we will endorse this particular version of the Ten Commandments. And if you are in agreement with this version, you're part of the special group and everybody else is not. And this is absolutely an obvious violation of religious freedom principles. The case that AU's going to be relying on is Stone v. Graham. So if you want to pop over later on and look up Stone v. Graham, the Supreme Court had struck down a similar case in Kentucky classrooms. And the Fifth Circuit is relying on more recent rulings. You can find all of this there at the AU site. Should be a lot of extra information as well. That changes a little bit about what's actually going to get talked about today. And so I'm going to go live and probably maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll go live on YouTube on my channel and run through those videos and take questions about religious freedom and stuff. I went live the other day, and let me just say, the lives. I did like a 6-hour gaming stream, and also I'm sure it was a bitch session and everything else. Those things I don't leave them up, but we are going to start doing some that we do leave up. That way, if you don't get to catch the live, you may get to catch part of the live and participate that way. But mainly, it's a time for me to kind of hang out. And considering how I absolutely willfully and happily busted my Zen on Sunday night during the After Dark show, it was good for me to take a day or so to knock out some mental health concerns. But we're back now. How Zen am I going to be? I don't know. We'll see. As zen as I can. I'm not that worried about it, really, because I think most of the time, if I actually get kind of irritated or outraged, there's a good reason for it. And I think most of the people who were watching Sunday night were cheering by the time it actually got around to happening. I really would like us to get some honest interlocutors, some people willing to defend their beliefs. Is that you? Are you the type of person who disagrees with us on some issue and is capable of explaining what you believe and why in a way that is understandable to virtually anybody, where we don't need specialized jargon? Can you explain why you think others should share that same belief? I do want to talk about a couple of quick things, though. There are some DSA candidates that have done exceptionally well lately, including a race in Florida that was like they were a 10-point underdog and they won by 11 points. And I just didn't prep any of that stuff because we were just going to be posting these videos from AU. But I will say that John Ossoff, when he was out campaigning, and he basically pointed out that Trump wasn't actually interested in doing the job, and that he was more interested in running off with Natalie on his jet that was given to him by the Emir of Saudi Arabia or whatever it was. And man, there are people who are really big hurt. Oh, he owes Natalie an apology. What he said is demeaning to women. First of all, there's absolutely nothing he said that was demeaning to her or to women, unless you're suggesting that he was suggesting that they're having an affair, which he didn't suggest. He just told the truth about who he ran off with on his plane. But there's a lot of people suggesting that there may be an affair. And I think it's all that surrounding rumor mill and Trump's own actions that are making people read into Ossoff's statement. And maybe it's justified, maybe it's not. Maybe that was his intent. It's my intent. I saw the reporting on the specific. Here, let me just pop this up. Here are some things from Natalie Harp to Trump. You are all that matters to me. I don't ever want to let you down. Thank you for being my guardian and protector in this life. I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work. I want to get back to that synergy where we'd talk about everything and nothing. You're the alpha and the omega, the be all and end all. What would I be without you? I want things to always be right between us. I also know I've been distracted all week, forgetting to eat throughout the days, and even forgetting to sleep, and only catching a couple hours at a time. After going through all this self-analysis, my conclusion, I need to reunite my past self with my current into a better version who will make you proud. And please, when I fail, will you tell me? You have the absolute right to cuss me out, if need be, when I deserve it, because no one knows or cares about me more. Thank you for always being there for me. I'll never forget when you made that promise to me after losing my dad to modify a classic. I could not have parted with you to anyone less worthy. And I will add, it is I who am unworthy. Always, Natalie. After you guys throw up and go take a shower, we'll get on with the rest of the show.
I did get those
Because
videos, by the way. If you wanted to play
you did get the videos.
I have them
Awesome.
loaded up and ready to go in vMix.
Awesome. Well, let me finish this up. We'll do that video, those two videos, and you'll get to see them, the AU thing. Here's the thing with this. I don't know if they're having a sexual affair or romantic affair. I don't know if she's a foreign agent sucking up to a narcissist in order to compromise him. I don't know if she's got mental health issues, if she has self-esteem issues, if she is absolutely just a mega sub and needs Trump in the big way. I don't know. I don't care. What I do care about is none of those comments are when you start talking about how you don't want to talk about work, how we can just get back to other stuff. You're the president's assistant. You're the girl that carries around the printer because he likes printouts and you brought a way to charge it. You're the one that sits there and types for him for his lie socials. She evidently camped out and lived in a maid's quarters at one of the golf courses or whatever to be near him, even when people didn't want her around. And when he had to switch planes, leaving reporters and press secretaries and other people on the plane that was supposedly threatened and jumped onto a safe plane, or what he's presumed was a safe plane, and yet later said that it was the more dangerous plane. What a sacrifice you made there, Mango Mussolini, to jump on the safer plane with your definitely not a mistress printer carrier girl who worships the very ground you walk on. I'm very happy to know the sacrifices you're willing to make. And this is a man who professes himself to be a Christian after cheating on everyone and everything and lying about anything and everything, and making more money since he's been president the second time than he has in his entire life before, whereas most presidents go out of their way to make sure they're not earning more money or maybe even any money while they're president. Not always, but he was going to put things in a blind trust. But he's made more money since taking office a second time than he had in his entire life before. We are in a fascist police state. We are surrounded by flock cameras. We are being policed and controlled. We are being killed. We are having our rights violated. We are being ruled by the billionaire class that is absolutely spending their time hiding the rest of the Epstein files. By the way, new information coming out about that, including a handwritten testimony that claims that Trump specifically was asking about one girl. Is she pregnant? Because if she is, that will cost us money unless we can sell the baby. And if she's Christian, the Saudis will love that because they love the religious ones. There's actually information that is leaking out now, finally, and potentially via court order soon, that may finally show that all those redactions that just say POTUS are there to show that the president of the United States is a co-conspirator with Jeffrey Epstein in the traffic and sale of women and girls. But hey, we don't talk about climate change. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about nothing. Because gas prices are high, but the economy is awesome. Food prices are high, but the economy is awesome. Are you guys tired of winning yet? Because I sure am. And we don't get to talk about court cases enough that are important. Ones that basically support the Project 2025 mission. One that basically adds fodder, like gravy for the MAGA voters. They think something good is actually happening because their gravy is forcing everybody else to adhere to the religion that they conveniently fucking ignore most of whenever it suits them. Here's a couple videos from Americans United's Ten Commandments case.
Yeah, those posters are going to be up everywhere.
I'm Ted Lowe.
And I'm Rebecca Lowe. We are an interfaith couple. Ted is Jewish. I am Christian.
Blending religions, it was really easy.
It was very important for us to want to raise our kids with both their Jewish heritage and Christianity.
Ready? Go get it.
Here we go.
We have 2 kids. You know, when I look at the kids, I see kindness. They're curious, always asking questions.
And they want to make the world a better place around them too.
The 10 Commandments law in Texas is every public school classroom in the state is going to have a poster up of the 10 Commandments. The morning this law came down and was signed, you know, I was stunned. Rebecca said, I told you that this is what was going to happen. I don't know why you didn't listen.
It frustrates me that my children are now having to navigate what we teach at home and what they are seeing in school, and they are in conflict with each other. My background is in religious education, and so I thankfully am able to help our kids whenever they have any questions about faith or the Bible or Jesus or God. However, these 10 Commandments posters only put one version of God in the classrooms that is above all other faiths, religions, and that is an absolute problem in a public school.
What the state is telling our children is that if you follow this preferred brand of Christianity, you're the top tier, and everyone else who doesn't think like you is less than. We're going to do everything we can to make sure these posters don't go up on your walls.
Unfortunately, one of our daughters has already encountered bullying in terms of religion. And so knowing that has already happened before the 10 Commandments posters show up in our schools, we know that sentiment is out there in our community, and they will feel even more emboldened and empowered because now they have the state backing.
They're going to go up, but we're going to fight to get them taken down. The way we raise our children in religion has nothing to do with the state of Texas. They don't get a seat at the table. This is our decision.
Having the government insert itself into the religious dynamic of our family is so hurtful and frustrating, and it is a violation of our constitutional rights.
America was not founded on biblical principles. It was founded on religious freedom for all. The reason we have thrived as a country for 250 years is because religion has always been separate from government.
All right, we're gonna play the second one. It's shorter, I think.
Yep. 3 minutes instead of 4. Give me 1 second
Awesome.
just so I can get it up for the vertical. Okay, here we go.
Politicians have brought this fight to our public schools and made our kids and their education the battleground. We have 3 girls, and I really love being girl dad.
What animal did you ride on carousel?
A doggy.
You rode a dog?
No, it is.
As parents, our job is to raise kind and caring children that will be kind and caring adults.
I want a world where they and everyone they know and interact with is treated equally and fairly. I want them to feel a part of community, both Jewish community and a broader civic community.
Our kids have lots of friends, and they get to learn about lots of different cultures and communities and religions, and it's a wonderfully warm environment.
In the last Texas legislative session, the legislature passed a law that requires that the Christian version of the Ten Commandments hang in every classroom in our state for every public school. In Judaism, we talk about our responsibility to educate our children as being one of our most central and sacred responsibilities as parents. The Ten Commandments in public school classrooms is deeply concerning to us. We are big believers in religious freedom and the separation of church and state. And for our kids to see the Christian version of the Ten Commandments every day in every classroom that they go into is a real violation of those sacred freedoms. As a rabbi, the Ten Commandments law is particularly upsetting. I am worried about my own children, and I am worried about all the children in my congregation.
Our kids are curious about other people, but there's no sense of us and them. The public school they're in creates this community of curiosity, of engagement, of learning about others without it being others in the negative sense that you often hear when you become an adult.
However, the Ten Commandments in public school classrooms is going to put our kids in the position to need to defend themselves or define themselves against something that they know is an action of their school and an action of their government that is making them feel different and separate from.
When one side feels that they have the weight of the school, the broader public, the state behind them, and it creates a much different dynamic than the usual tensions.
George Washington made a promise to the Jewish people in a letter he wrote to a synagogue in Rhode Island. He promised that America would always be a place that gave to bigotry no sanction and persecution no assistance. And I think this law is a violation of that promise.
So there you go. Please go over to au.org/TENC and make sure you share those videos and spread the word. I think it's really important that people see it's not just former Christian, godless heathen loudmouths like me who are objecting to government intrusions into the separation of state and church, the separation of religion and government, the intrusion into our religious freedoms. And I know it's been a long intro. I don't want to keep going forever because we're already starting to get calls. If you're somebody who wants to talk about this or defend MAGA, or please, if you want to defend your religious views or something you think we're going to disagree with, maybe you're in favor of the Ten Commandments being required to be forced in schools, and you can call in to explain why we shouldn't also post, like, oh, I don't know, the Satanic Bible's intro right next to them, or some passage from the Bhagavad Gita, why should we go with that one specifically? We'd love to hear from you. But tonight's guest, let me tell you, is a mother, a veteran, an engineer, a lifelong atheist with a sharp ability to address religion honestly and thoroughly. And while I've known her name for, I don't know, it seems like most of the time I've been kind of active in the community. There's been a period of time where I wasn't seeing content from her. She's returned to content creation. And I think I saw one video and was like, ooh, there's Pete. Let me get Pete back in here. So please welcome Pete Braxton to the show. How are you? Oh, you're muted.
See, I'm starting off like a winner already.
No, it's good. We're having mute issues all around.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the nice intro. That was, I hope I'm not blushing.
Oh, it plays well. So first of all, just so that we don't do the thing that I've done once before, which is do a whole multi-hour show and then end it without somebody being able to point to their own channel. Like mods can get it up, and I think it may also be down in the description. But if you can tell people where to find you so that they can go enjoy the content the same as I have, please do.
Yeah, so someone was nice enough to post it in the chat right now. It's youtube.com/@peachbraxton. I'm also on TikTok, where I also post a lot of the same videos. But yeah, that's my, my home. I guess my home base has definitely always been YouTube, because I'm kind of an OG atheist content creator / blowhard from, way back in the day. I started around 2009, and I guess I would say my heyday was from there until about 2015. And I talked about religion and atheism and other social issues like feminism, LGBTQIA topics, abortion debates, autism, things like that. And I mean, generally speaking, when you say, you hadn't seen too much of me, I was never super consistent to begin with. But I completely fell off when 9 years ago I started a family. It's just, I think anyone who has kids knows how difficult it is to have any kind of a life outside of being a mom of small children, and they're not just young, but they're also disabled too. So it was hard trying to find time that I could actually dedicate to content creation, but also it wasn't just that. It was also around 2020. Or not 2020, I would say 2016, the rise of Trump and MAGA and this super uber right-wing absorption of the media and, I guess, public approval. It made me lose a lot of motivation, because it was depressing to watch, and I didn't want to talk about it, and it was basically the only thing to talk about. And I understand everything is political, but everything became political and toxic and a threat. And I wanted no part of it. I was kind of that person that just wanted to crawl into bed and just watch rerun, I just wanted to binge watch The Vampire Diaries for a couple of months and just make the world go away. So you have to work your way through that. But earlier this year, my kids are a little bit older now. They're about to turn 9 and 6. I've also found myself having transitioned from more of a hybrid style role in my job to fully remote. So now I'm home all the time. And I realize after the kids go to bed, I actually have a lot of time on my hands now. I could start doing content again. Do I have anything to say? Yes, I do. I did start to get my second wind back because, I kind of gravitated over to TikTok just to see, a new generation of viewers who were completely new to the Great Debate. And I just kind of dipped my toe in there, and I thought, oh, you know what? It's like riding a bike. I can do this again. And also I kind of got a renewed sense of optimism, a cautious optimism, because there seems to be this pushback now against MAGA, against Trump. He has a very low approval rating right now. Who knows how long that will take? But of course, it wasn't because the president is an actual criminal. It's not because he plundered the government to line his own pockets. It's not even because of the Epstein files. It's because of the economy's in the toilet. And now people have had enough. And it kind of gives me, hope in humanity again, a little bit.
It is absolutely understandable. And there's been a lot going on. So, I remember 2016 when he first got elected. And I remember my wife at the time lost her mind, like when they made the announcement late at night, and was shut down for a while. I shut down a bit, but also it was like, okay, we got to fight, we got to get back. And then when 2020 seemed to be an improvement, still a far cry from what I'd prefer, but considering where we were, an improvement, I was like, we can get back to doing stuff. And so I was, like, I'm doing a little bit of politics stuff on Wednesdays and a little bit of religion stuff on Sundays, and let's just keep that going. And I would like, I actually, I mean, I say I would have never bet that we'd be in this position, but we actually kind of predicted it. And I think it, I've watched everybody else play armchair quarterback and suggest, oh, well, how did we lose, in 24? And I mean, even, guys like Sam Harris, where it's all the trans stuff. No, it's not, Sam. Fuck off. Stop throwing marginalized people under the bus. You know what it was? It was a whole bunch of things. It was a wild misinformation campaign, rise of lies and hatred, and the fact that Biden was a problematic candidate replaced by another candidate. By the way, it's not like Kamala Harris ever said anything about trans folks at all in the entire time that she was running. So I'm going to say that merely being a black woman was enough to torpedo, her candidacy. And, it didn't inspire people. It all felt weird. And then you've got the mantra of the simple bumper sticker lie of fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. We won, we won, we won, we won, we won. They steal, they're coming for the cats and dogs. I mean, the most ridiculous things that we would laugh at in any other year became actual things. Look at them. They're going after Fauci now. They've shut down science. We've got RFK Jr. in charge of health. And I'm like, and right now, I just saw news articles today that because they let so many people go, they are scrambling to prepare for the next round of diseases that should have already been, prepared for. Hey, we've got callers. And rather than sit here and let me ramble and throw the same whiny ass fit that I've been throwing for ages, let's see if we can get some. First of all, there is one. Normally we take theists first, and as much as I'd like to take theists first, we have a call that I want to let in because it's Dave with an elevator pitch about recent reports on the USS Abraham Lincoln. And since you and I are both veterans, Dave, give us an update.
Yeah, and I will be quick because I know your time is precious on the show, and I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much already.
Thank you.
And what I have to say already kind of segues nicely from what you were just talking about. So the armchair quarterback thing in particular. After reading and researching and processing my own traumas in relation to the recent reports and news on the USS Abraham Lincoln, I'm not going to go into all of those things. I think you'll be talking about that plenty. But one thing I've noticed is that these conversations, when they come up in the news cycle that are impacting service members and veterans in particular, I'm noticing a lot of people saying a lot of things, but what I don't see is veterans and service members being at the center of these conversations. And that has been really bugging me a lot. And so I'm starting now to redirect my own energies from my own platform, maybe use some of my privilege as being one of the more fortunate disabled veterans out there to try and highlight veteran voices in particular. The way I plan to start is on my channel this Friday, I'm doing a roundtable with a number of other veteran creators and friends of mine that have been willing to step up and share their voices and their experiences and their thoughts about these events. And I'm going to be trying to host conversations like that on a regular basis, because the reality is this is not just one administration's problem. This is an institutional issue that has been spanning across multiple administrations for multiple decades, where service members and veterans are falling through the cracks And if I may be so bold and frank as to say, the social contract that veterans signed with the American people has been broken by the American people, because the only way to fix this is for more people to listen to veterans' voices and hear what is impacting us and start acting in accordance with ways that will functionally make changes to those institutional programs, not just throwing blame at one president or one Department of War LARPer. It goes way deeper than all of that. And if you have anything that you want to say back with me, that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to say.
No, Dave, I appreciate the update. And, you know, I served on the Roosevelt for a number of years. And so that's an aircraft carrier, same class essentially as the Lincoln. And so we're hearing reports about them. You know, they've been deployed for 7 months. And I have friends who were like, you know, oh, well, if we'd been deployed for 7 months, which we were, it was just, you know, buck up, put your big boy panties on, you know, this is the job, do all this. And what it reminds me so much, and to hear this from veterans that I served with, it is really sad. It reminds me of all the people who don't want free university because they had to pay their student loans. They don't want debt forgiveness because they had to do their debt. It's like, I had to suffer, you should have to suffer too. Why wouldn't you want a better world for the people? There's a reason why the people are free to complain. By the way, if we'd had social media when I was out there for Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Provide Comfort, Kuwait Liberation, if we had social media then, you would have heard an outcry from the people serving there for the conditions on numerous occasions. And that doesn't mean it was always bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had an easy peasy time on an aircraft carrier during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, all that, because we would send off, I would watch planes take off for 3 days loaded with bombs so that their wings almost touch the deck. They would go out and they'd fly back and land 30 minutes later. We repeat that for 3 days, and then we sit out there and float for 6 or 7 months. It was easy. When people are like, oh, thank you for your service, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. My dad was in Vietnam. Thank him. I sat out there and floated. And yes, I did 8 years, but we also had some of the best food. And because Congress had acted more appropriately then than they are now, all of our pay was tax-free. I don't know, because we haven't actually declared war. Are they getting tax-free pay?
Well, thank you for your time, Matt. May I have permission to just share the name of my channel? Like I said, I'm doing a show Wednesday, and if people do want to hear what veterans have to say, even if they can't catch it live. So my channel name is @Dave's World Games right here on YouTube. I do also broadcast on Twitch and Kick, but YouTube is where the VODs are stored. So even if you can't catch the conversation we're going to have live, the title of the show is Friday Night Firesides. And like I said, this Friday, it's going to be an all-veteran panel doing a more roundtable-focused discussion on these issues rather than debates.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Take care. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody in chat said, I didn't work for V2, that's for sure. Yeah, that's true. My brother was part of flight deck crew on the same carrier. I started off in the nuke program. Then when I got out, I ended up on the carrier as a bosun's mate. So I ran first division as an E5 with another E5 with no divo, and we were the most senior enlisted in first division. So I had it really easy. I was also the Department 3M coordinator. So there we go. All right. We have callers, and they are one of them. Normally we prioritize theists, but I'm going to take this one first because I'm not quite sure if this individual counts as a theist or not. So Sophia from California, pronouns are she, her, wants to defend religion from a Hegelian sense. So are you advocating for God or just for religion?
Not necessarily. So Hegelian. In Hegel's conception of are you familiar with who Hegel is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Hegel was a Christian, but I'm not specifically talking about Christianity. I think the broad conception within Hegelianism of kind of the relationship between religion and spirit doesn't necessarily require it to be specifically Christianity. In Hegel's conception, it does. I disagree with that. So I'm more defending the kind of conceiving of the world and of societies in this kind of almost like metaphysical way that has kind of this entailment of the understanding of the culture in this religion. So I think that you look at any historical religion.
Are you on speakerphone?
I am not on. I'm on computer with the.
Oh, okay. It's just echoey. So this show primarily, if we're going to get theists, I want people to defend truth claims about religion. I'm not really looking for thoughts on Hegelian strategy or how to respin religion to make it palatable, because I don't have any use for that. Or should I? Should I have a use for that?
Well, the specifically, actually, the way in which Hegel specifically conceives of religion and of Christianity, which is what I was going to get to, does involve certain truth claims. So he thinks of religion as the self-consciousness of spirit, and spirit as the actual world as like a shared ethical and social life. And in a sense, it's essentially he has this attitude of the shared ethical and social life itself being almost a form of consciousness, not necessarily strictly in the same way in which people are, but it's not necessarily quite the same as traditional theism.
I'm going to need you to make some claim and defend it. I don't need a book report on Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel or his views. I only care about God claims and whether or not we should believe them.
I mean, this is something which is often interpreted as equivalent to a God. Hegel's like the set of people as a society organizes in a somewhat conscious manner, which is often referred to as God.
I really don't need a book report, Sophia. I'm looking for people to defend their actual beliefs and explain why we should share. I don't know why you're talking over me.
I am trying to do that.
I need people to defend their actual beliefs and why we should share them. Can you state a belief that you think we should share?
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, please.
What I'm saying is I won't say Hegel believed this. I was going to say Hegel's
don't tell me what you won't say. Don't tell me what you won't say. Just state the position that you want to defend as briefly as possible. And then if I care whether or not we should believe it, then we can go on from there, because right now we're getting nowhere. It feels very much like, oh, I studied some stuff from a philosopher and I want to tell you all about it. That ain't, I've done all this for 20 years.
So the position I would state is that society as a whole can be reasonably interpreted as conscious in a way that is qualitatively meaningful, and that it can make sense to refer to this as God.
So you're saying the society as a whole, it's meaningful to refer to that as God?
I think that it can be referred to as God in a way that, I think that is somewhat meaningful. I think that it is qualitatively meaningful.
Because I am part of society, and I disagree with different people in society. And I don't think that there's a shared consciousness, but I do think that there's in much the same way that you could view society as like an ant colony or something like that, where there's cooperation, etc. I don't see what the justification is for suggesting that's a God in any meaningful sense, because it's not the God of traditional theism. It's not an omnimax God. It's not a creator God. It's not an independent agent with desire. Its existence doesn't in any way impact my life, whether I believe in it or follow it or agree with it. So in what way is society reasonably viewed as God?
I would say just in the sense that you could feasibly call it a sort of higher consciousness.
I don't give a shit.
I would say,
Okay. Yeah, I don't care.
I guess
That is
care about the
useless.
call.
That is
And
absolutely
that's
useless to me,
reasonable.
Sophia. So we're going to move on.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. All right. It's not that, hey, I did my philosophy time and I still do, but I don't need to sit around and do bong rip theology or let's have a dissertation on how to respin, groupthink or anything else. I'm part of society, and right now society is broken, but society didn't create the universe, and society doesn't have any requirements for my life or anything related to like morality or anything like that. But I get that it's cool, especially for philosophy geeks. I know I used to be more of one. Now I'm not. Sorry.
I guess you could call society a god, but what would be the point? God, society doesn't grant wishes, doesn't hear your prayers.
It's kind of like, hey, I could call anything God. And I'm like, why? What does it get me? Because the overwhelming majority of people who are advocating for God aren't going to recognize anything Sophia identified as reasonable as a God. It's only the people we're not going to have a problem with. The people. So like, I find the entire concept of spirituality nonsense garbage that is ill-defined and has no use for me. And quite often I find it a cowardly way of avoiding just acknowledging that, yeah, I live in the material world. I don't need magic. I don't need gods. But you don't want to say you're an atheist. So I'm spiritual, but not religious. And that's fine. And if you think you're getting something out of it, cool. I would love for people to call in and say, here's what I mean by spiritual. Here's why I think the word is useful. And here's why I think you should share it also. But if it's just like, hey, this works for me, awesome. That's not a call that does me any good or the show. But I appreciate the effort. All right, here we go. We do have a couple theist callers. So Adrian's calling from Texas, pronouns are him. And Adrian says, God is needed for morals. How are you, Adrian? You're on with Peach and Matt.
Oh, hey, I'm doing well. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
We hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was the topic that I read when I was scrolling on YouTube. It said God is needed for morals, and that was the topic of debate. Is that correct?
Oh, it's a call-in show where you can call in on a number of different topics. We list a bunch of them. Like, for example, it just says we don't need God, but there's a bunch of different things. So if you think God is needed for morals, which God and why?
Well, can I have y'all's names, please?
I'm Peach, and this is Matt.
Okay, hello, guys. Are any of y'all homeowners by any chance?
I am.
Actually, Adrian, I'm going to mute you. I want you to listen to me real quick. Nobody can hear you right now. Hi, I'm Matt Dillahunty. I'm the host of this show and a bunch of others. I've been debating religion publicly on live shows and at universities, churches, conventions for 23 years or so. I'm a former Christian, and I teach this stuff in kind of an unprofessional sense and everything else. This show is a call-in show where people present what their beliefs are and make a case for them as to why we should accept them. Whether or not I'm a homeowner cannot possibly be of any relevance to your case for whether or not God is needed for morals. It also definitely isn't relevant to you answering my question about which God is needed for morals or why. We've started off on the wrong foot.
I just figured
don't
he was
want us
going
to start off on the wrong foot because it's very clear you seem to have stumbled across this without knowing anything about us.
I just figured he was going to like try to
Adrian,
sell us a timeshare or something.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Adrian, I have a reputation or two. One of them is that I don't take any bullshit. And the other one is that if people don't engage honestly, it never goes well. I don't like muting people. I don't, but genuinely, when you're like, are you guys homeowners? Nothing about nothing about my life or Peach's life is remotely relevant to your case for God. And I know that because you don't know who the fuck either of us are, and you didn't when you made up your mind about God being required for morals. So we're going to start over. I'm going to unmute you in a second. And all I need you to do is say, okay, I understand. Here's the God I'm advocating for and why I think it's necessary for morals. And then we can have a discussion without having to kind of relearn how to start. So let's start over. All right, so we've got Adrian calling in from Texas. Adrian, pronouns he, him, says God's needed for morals. Adrian, welcome to the show. Which God and why should we believe that?
I believe that God is needed for morals, and the God that I'm speaking of is the God that is mentioned in insurance policies. When you have an insurance policy in the contract, it states...
Okay.
Sorry.
I muted you again. I'm sorry.
What church is that?
Okay. Adrian, I have questions. When you say the God that's listed in insurance policies, you do realize that when they talk about an act of God, they're not referring to a specific God. They're referring to acts that we don't seem to have control over, right?
Yeah, that's
that God has nothing. I'm sorry, but that God is a placeholder label for we don't know and we can't do anything about it. That God cannot possibly have anything to do with moral systems. It is morally ambivalent. It is the tornado that strikes your house and my house equally. It is the tornado. It is the fire that burns down the children's orphanage and the Christian hospital and the godless heathen sex club equally. That is not a God that has moral views or is relevant to morals. Do you have anything else, or have we just wasted a couple minutes?
The God from the Bible, the Christian Bible, the Abrahamic God, that God.
I'm sorry, Adrian.
God that's relevant and needed.
Adrian, when I asked you which God and why, you said the God that's listed in insurance policies. That's definitely not the Christian God. Are you changing which God you believe in, or were you lying before?
You're obviously not letting me get to any sort of point or letting me get anywhere with it. So if you'd let me speak, maybe I can.
Correct.
Kind of
I'm not letting you. Correct, because I'm not letting you. I'm so what? Come on, Adrian, bring it.
You're so surprised by hearing something that you've never heard before that you're not willing to accept it or to open to your mind.
You think I haven't heard about the Christian God before? You think I haven't heard about the Christian God before?
God that's mentioned in the insurance policy. And look, we all live in the legal world. You have a driver's license. You go to courtrooms. That same God that's mentioned in the insurance policy is the same God that's mentioned in the courtroom. And we all have to
that's not a God. That's not a God, and it's not a God about morality, and it's not a God. It's not a God of the Bible. It's not a God of the Bible.
How do you know that? How can you prove that to be true? How can you make the distinction?
Prove that the God that is mentioned in insurance policies is the God of the Bible. Go ahead.
Because it's everything that cannot be controlled by man or woman, which is the same God that's in the Bible. Because God is everything that's not man or woman in the Bible. It does not happen by man or woman. The same reason that they say that they define something that we cannot control, like a hurricane or a fire, as an act of God, because it's out of our control. It's out of our hands. It's something that is
okay. Is the God of the Bible a thinking agent that has will and takes action intentionally?
Yes, that happens. That
okay.
is what.
No. That was a yes or no. That was really straightforward. I asked if the God of the Bible was a thinking agent that has will and takes action, and you said yes. Is a tornado caused by, or actually is, a thinking agent that has intent?
Is so in the definition of the contract, like just a tornado?
I'm sorry. What question do you think I just? I'm sorry. What question do you think I just asked you? Is a tornado a thinking agent? I'm sorry. Is a tornado?
No, the answer is no,
is a tornado? Wow. I know there's a slight delay, but also there's a delay in what's going on in your brain. So listen for a second and think, and then get back to me. Is a tornado caused by a thinking agent? Yes or no?
Yes.
Prove it.
Prove it. Prove that a tornado is caused by a thinking agent.
Yeah.
So, oh man, I'm not sure if I could do that.
I know you
Actually,
can't.
give me a second.
I know you can't. You troll. I'm going to put you on mute and you're going to listen to me because you're embarrassing me. See, I've got a guest on here for the first time and I put you on as the first theistic caller in the hopes that you would be sincere. But in fact, you're another garbage troll. Okay. You thought you were going to come up with something clever. You thought you were going to get my goat. You thought you're going to pretend like you didn't know who we were. Oh, I think that a tornado is caused by the same thinking agent that is mentioned in the Bible. Okay, prove it. How can I do that? I don't know. Which means if you were sincere, which I don't think you are, if you were sincere, that means you're admitting that you hold beliefs without rational warrant, which means you are by definition irrational. And if you're calling in to tell us why we should be irrational, that would be a hoot, because I'm pretty sure neither Peach nor myself have any interest in believing things without good evidentiary warrant. But I appreciate the fact that you admit and acknowledged that in the very first basic questions asked about your absurd position, you have had to admit immediately that you are incapable of defending your position. But I'm having a good day. I took a little mental health time. I sat around. I played a game. And I have Peach on. And we have other callers. We have another theist on the line. So what I'm going to do, Adrian, is I'm going to give you one more chance. And it's not going to be with me. If I have to speak, you have failed. Let's just be very clear. I'm going to mute myself here in a second. I'm going to let Peach interact with you to see if she has questions to ask that similarly expose, or maybe I'm really bad at this. Maybe I'm the problem here. So I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to let you try to defend your God. And whenever Peach has decided that she's done, whether she converts or you continue to admit that you have no capability of defending your position, we'll move on. If at any time, listen very fucking carefully. Very carefully. If at any time you start to crash out, if you are rude to my guest, if you whine like a little bitch, like you already did once, I will drop you and I will move on to somebody who's sincere. I want you to be sincere. I want you to show us what God is required for morals and how we can know that. Because as somebody who's been lecturing on morals for almost longer than you've been alive, I've been down this road so many times. There is no problem with a secular moral system that is in any way solved by appealing to a god, any god, whether it's a tornado god, Thor, a lightning god, Zeus, or the God of the Bible. So we're going to take you off mute. I'm going to introduce you again, and I'm going to mute. Please do a good job of defending what you believe and why we should believe it, and be kind to my guest. You can be a dick to me later, but be kind to my guest, or I will drop you with a quickness. So here we go. I'm going to mute me. Pete, you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm trying to come from a humble place. I really didn't mean any disrespect, but I want to say that I think a divine being that most Christians consider a force of creation is responsible for morals, because the force of creation that creates us upon conception and upon birth is what puts us on an equal playing field and allows us to realize that any sort of harm that could be done upon an individual comes from that fact that we come from the same creative force. So, it's to say that our common ground is that we all come from a mother and a father. Every single one of us that exists here on earth comes from two people, and that carry that same force of creation from the divine being, the divine force that endows us with that force of creation, into this world is what allows us to recognize that equal playing field. And, I think when we try to understand God using only intellect, we begin to fail a little bit, because things like the warmth of a fire is perceptible without intellect. It's perceptible by a sense
Adrian,
feeling that.
hang on.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with morals?
Because the fact that we are all equal means that we all have to have a certain level of respect, and that's where morals come from. Like, I can't kill a baby because I know that it has a mother and father. I can't push you or hurt you because you have a mother and a father.
Did God kill babies?
Does God kill babies?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
No. So there were no babies in the flood, in the great flood when he flooded the earth? There were no babies in Egypt when he killed all the firstborn?
Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah.
Yes. So if we're getting our morals from God, how is it that God can't even abide by the morality that he has supposedly bestowed upon us?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this a lot. My argument to that would be that, that's from the Old Testament, and that being that God is an ever-changing force, and the event that happened in the New Testament, that being the crucifixion, changed the nature of God and our relationship to him. So
what does it matter if it was in the Old Testament? Is the Old Testament not part of the Word of God anymore?
Yeah, no, but the thing is, can we understand why that wouldn't happen again, or why that is no longer the case, and that the reason that story exists is to teach us a different truth, a different story about how God came to be what he is today.
So God made mistakes, is what you're saying. God messed up when he killed babies.
No, it was part of getting to where we are now, and
but
where
didn't
he
you
is
say
now,
that he was?
or he or she.
Did you not use the word ever changing?
Yes, correct.
So God did something that was seen, or that he saw as incorrect, and then changed in the New Testament. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think his reasoning was that it was incorrect.
So it was the correct thing to do to kill babies.
It was the right thing to do to kill babies. It was sure.
So it was okay. So I disagree with that. In my understanding of morality, killing everybody in a flood is egregious. There is absolutely no justification for that. Killing innocent firstborns to punish a king, that's also beyond the pale. I mean, there's no way you can justify that to me. My sense of morality comes from my understanding of, I would not want certain things to happen to me. I certainly wouldn't want to be killed. I wouldn't want my children to be killed. So I'm not going to do that to other people. We get our morality from each other, wanting to live together in a society. If you're saying we're getting from the God of the Bible, Yahweh, you clearly don't believe that either, because you have reached the point of cognitive dissonance, where you have to, understand that everything you've just said about us being equal, and you wouldn't want to do certain thing, but then saying, well, God did it, so it must have been okay. And you know that that's not true. So you want to try this again?
So I don't want to, I don't want to say that, that I don't want to say that it's okay because God did it. So and I don't see how that would be a reason that God cannot still be a reason for morals, or that can uphold morals. So I'm not going to go around killing people just because I read about it in a book, but that doesn't mean that God, so the same, that feeling of not wanting anything bad to happen to you or to your children is universal amongst everybody. Nobody wants any of that to happen to them. And
well, no, that's not true either. We do have psychopaths that live amongst us.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. And how do people get to the point of psychopathy? and to the point of wanting to kill people. And I think it comes from a detachment from God. And so, look, I'll make this argument that
Am I a
when I
psychopath?
describe God,
Are you saying that I'm a psychopath because I have a so-called detachment
I
from
think
God?
the opposite. I think you being a mother puts you in a position where you're closer to God because you, like God, have helped in the creation of life. And so what you understand about this beautiful relationship that you have with your children is something that is bestowed upon you with God. So someone
No,
that's childless
I disagree.
and that has lived in a large city, okay. I mean, that's fine. Look, I will say this. Before I go any further,
I'm
don't
going
mean
to
be
interrupt.
disrespectful to any
I'm
of
going
you.
to interrupt despite what I said real quick. I'm childless and I live in a big city. And I also understand the Bible as someone who was a Christian from the age of 5 to 30 and was studying to be a pastor. Do you have a Bible handy?
I can. I can go grab one.
Well, would you be
Yeah.
happy if I just read a couple verses to you?
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Sure. So, like, are you familiar with Hebrews 13:8?
No, but I can open it up. I got the Bible in the hand now.
Cool. It says Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. And over in Malachi 3:6, it says, "For I am the Lord, I change not." And then in James 1:17, it also says that God doesn't change. Where do you get the idea that God is ever changing when the Bible repeatedly says that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, that God is in fact unchanging?
Well, look, it's not a very Christian idea, but it's the idea that God is not one, but all. And so the same way we change, man, you know what? You're right. You got me there.
I know I'm right.
not a Christian. Hey, totally open
Well, we
to
can't speak to that.
hearing
You,
new
you
things.
may very
So,
well be
Adrian,
a Christian.
Adrian,
Yeah.
Adrian, I appreciate that. You're not a Christian. Do you actually believe in any God, or were you just calling in for fun?
I do believe in a God. Maybe I'm just confused and I just wanted some information. I just wanted to know where I'm
know
wrong.
what?
I'm open to.
Sure. What do you know about the God that you believe in?
The creator, he created life, and
How do you know that?
life.
How do you know that life? How do you know that life was created by an intelligence?
Because everything's perfect. Like
Everything is not perfect.
Okay, Adrian, come on now. Adrian, I breathe and swallow through the same tube. Is that perfect design? Cancer kills people all the time. I have friends and my dad who are dealing with cancer. How could you possibly, not even, the Bible doesn't even pretend this is a perfect world. It doesn't even say God created it perfect. What on earth makes you think that it's perfect? And if it was perfect, how would that prove an intelligent creator?
You mean like cancer, like the shit that Agent Orange gave to the people of Vietnam that was deployed by the United States government?
So everyone who has cancer was
things that come
exposed to
from
Agent Orange?
Manipulation. What's that?
Adrian, you don't even know what cancer is either. I'm asking you, why are you convinced that life was created by an intelligence, and you say it's because it's perfect when it's absolutely not? I'm wearing eyeglasses, dumbass. In a perfect world, I wouldn't need eyeglasses, would I?
In a perfect world, we wouldn't have plate tectonics causing earthquakes.
In a perfect world, you wouldn't have lied and pretended to be something you're not. And in a perfect world, you would have an answer. In a perfect world,
that's all.
In a perfect world, you would understand why you believe that life was created by an intelligence, and you would be able to answer it. But you're not in a perfect world, are you?
Maybe not, man.
Okay, so what would be the reason to think that life was created? Sorry, what?
I said I'm approaching with humility, and I appreciate you dissecting this.
Adrian, I don't give a fuck about your humility. You know who calls in and says they're approaching with humility? trolls who want to stay on and waste as much of my time as possible. People who are sincere in their beliefs, who want to engage, don't try to keep talking about after they lie, after they dissemble, after they spin, after they get shown up by the most basic 101 questions. They don't keep doing the, oh, I'm approaching with humility. You don't need to approach with humility. I appreciate the fact that you were nice when you were talking with Peach. You don't have to be humble. You don't have to complain about it. If you genuinely believe in a God, you need to go and figure out how and why.
Because everything that works outside
I'm sorry.
of man
I'm sorry.
is
I'm
perfect.
almost done. I'm almost done.
Sorry,
If you believe
sorry.
in a God, you need to go and figure out why you believe in a God and why other people should believe in a God. Because right now, the correct answer when somebody asks you why you believe in a God is, I don't know, because you don't.
No, okay, how about this being my answer? Everything corrupt and evil and bad and imperfect comes from man. Everything outside of man is perfect and works in a beautiful cyclical pattern that does not need to be recharged or refueled. That's why everything started getting better during COVID when everyone went inside.
Does energy from the sun come from man?
No.
And it causes what? Skin cancer. Is skin cancer
No, it doesn't.
corrupt?
I actually studied that, man.
It doesn't?
It comes from chemicals. No.
Adrian, I'm gonna mute you in a second, probably. Adrian, the sun causes skin cancer. That's just a fact.
That's why we wear sunscreen.
Like, yeah, sunscreen causes cancer, not
Not
sun.
sunscreen, not sunscreen. Sun exposure. The radiation from the sun is killing us.
For how long and at what UV index rate?
Please, like, you know what a fucking UV index rate is. Basal cell carcinoma is the most common type. It looks like a shiny pink patch or a bump. But the question was, you absolutely dishonest liar. The question was, does radiation from the sun come from man? And the answer is no. And yet it causes skin cancer, which violates your claim that everything good comes from outside man, and only good comes from outside man, and only bad and bad things only come from man. You are just making shit up in the most ridiculous.
Perfect. No, I use the word perfect.
You are making shit up in the most ridiculous. You are either incredibly.
It gives us light. It gives us warmth.
I don't need you to talk about photosynthesis. You said,
dog, I don't need you to talk about melanoma. I could say that shit, but like that's not the case.
Dog, I'm gonna mute you and I'm gonna school you because evidently you sucked at the actual school. Okay, you ready? Buckle up. Your claim was that all things that are bad come from man. And I highlighted immediately something that is bad, skin cancer, and you agreed it doesn't come from man. So I'm going to unmute you, and I'm going to need you, dog, to retract your assertion that all evil comes from man. And if you do that, then we'll give you another shot. So here we go. Does everything harmful and evil come from man? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Goodbye. See you later. Call when you learn something.
Wow. Okay. I was going to ask if man created anthrax, but yeah, I was already kind of put off when he says, well, I'm approaching with humility. You know, there's nothing less humble than calling yourself humble.
Yeah. That's why I don't do it. That's how humble I am. I'm the humblest of all the humble people. All right. Here we go. Josh is a theist calling us from North Carolina. Wants to talk about whether we need God. Pronouns are he, him. Hey, Josh, you're on with Peach and Matt. How are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
Oh, not bad. Hey, would you recognize that sun exposure causes cancer and that's not because of man?
Yes, I would recognize that. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, sweet. All right, we're off to a rounding start here. So go ahead, explain to us why we need God and I suppose which God, but go ahead.
Okay, so to take the mystery out of the Christian God, the God of the Bible. My truth claim for why we need God is for morals is the first thing I want to kind of tackle. So I work in behavioral health, and I've been working in it for about 7 years now. And I identify as Anglo-Catholic, so I go to Anglican church, but I do most of the Catholic stuff. But so first thing is I've sat with people and counseled people that went through the most horrific things you could even imagine. And I'm thinking of one specific person that really altered my perspective on religion. And I will never in my life have I identified as an atheist, but for a few years I probably was one. Like, it's something I just didn't really think about.
Josh.
But
we need you to explain to us why we need God for morals. And so I don't need I don't need the background story, but let me see if asking a question might help this.
Yes.
Are you saying that there needs to be a God for us to have morals, or that we need to agree with God to be moral?
There needs to, that's a tough question, because the situation I'm explicitly referring to is I was counseling a woman who was in a really bad domestic violence situation.
Josh, this is a philosophical, straightforward question that does not require a story or anything else. Are you saying that we need to agree with God to be moral, or that there needs to be a God for there to be moral?
I'm going to say yes to both of those questions.
Okay. If I need to agree with God to be moral, how can I find out what God's views on morality are?
I would say the Bible first and foremost, secondary Plato's writings.
Okay, well, I those things are not consistent, but I wholeheartedly reject the Bible's positions on morality. I find them to be repugnant and grossly immoral and in violation of basic individual freedoms, autonomy, respect. It doesn't treat people equally with regard to gender and rights. It allows for, permits, and endorses slavery. It has inherited sin, substitutionary atonement. The God of the Bible in 2 Samuel has David's wives publicly raped by David's son as a punishment for David disobeying. I don't find that to be moral. Do you find any of that I talked about moral?
Of course not. No.
And yet that's the Bible. So if those things are in the Bible, do I then need to cherry pick the Bible to find the good bits?
No, but was that not a record of what happened? God didn't tell David's sons, "Oh, go rape this person."
No. God specifically sent a messenger to David in 2 Samuel to tell him that because David had sex with one of his soldiers' wives and then had that soldier killed in order to cover it up, that God was going to kill the baby. Are you okay with God killing the baby as a punishment for David?
No.
Did God kill the baby according to the Bible?
Yes.
Yes. And then did God punish David personally at all? Because he killed David's baby and he had David's wives raped by David's oldest son. He didn't do anything to David, though, right? And David's the one that did wrong, right?
Well, of course he did something to David, because David is watching all of this stuff happen. And
boo fucking who. Boo fucking who. Oh, boo hoo. Boo hoo. Is the God of the Bible, is the God doing that, acting in a moral way? Yes or no? No. So if I ask you at the beginning, hang on, listen carefully, because I'm gonna mute. I don't want to occupy the entire call. I specifically asked you if I needed to agree with God's morality, How would I know what God thinks? And you went to the Bible. Now, first of all, I have no reason to believe that the God of the Bible exists or any other God exists. And I have no reason to believe that the Bible is actually representative of what God thinks at all. But if it were what God thinks, then we've already concluded that the God represented there does a lot of terrible, immoral things, right down to who he's going to punish and how many generations he's going to punish for sin. So now we have to toss out the Bible because it's not the Bible that tells us what God views as moral. So where can we go to learn what God wants, what the real God thinks is moral? Because that God is a monster.
I don't think he is a monster because
you don't think it's a monster?
No,
hang on, Josh. You don't think it's a monster to drown all of the world except for 8 people? You don't think it's a monster to kill someone's baby because they had an affair? You don't think it's that God's a monster to have someone's wives raped publicly by their own son? You don't think that's monstrous? You don't think it's monstrous to tell people they can have slaves, buy them, that they become their property forever? That you can trick your Jewish slaves into becoming your property forever, even though you're supposed to let them go after 7 years, that you can beat them as long as they don't die within a couple of days? You don't think that those are monstrous actions?
Of course they're monstrous actions. They're not monstrous for God.
Oh, so God isn't a monster when he does terrible shit like that?
Because God doesn't have the ability to self-reflect, and you can only get morality through his self-reflection.
Why on earth would I give a shit what a creature who can't self-reflect and who does horrific shit thinks about morality? Why would I use that as my standard?
Because he's God.
Okay, so if I use that as my standard, I should go around killing babies, right?
Because human beings have an ability to self-reflect, so of course,
no.
That's a monstrous action.
I asked you if I should use that God as my example, and so if that's the case, I should use the death of children and the raping of spouses as punishment, right?
No, you asked me if that was a moral thing for God to do. And I said it was morally acceptable for God. It is not morally acceptable for human beings.
Why is it morally acceptable? Why is it morally acceptable for God? And if it's morally acceptable for God, how can I use that God as a moral standard and not do what God does?
Because God doesn't have the ability to self-reflect. He doesn't gain the
neither
ability
do you.
to self-reflect.
We have just demonstrated that neither do you. Peach, have at it. I really would lose my shit if I kept talking to this guy.
I'm just kind of floored that he's saying that an all-powerful being does not have the power to self-reflect, but we do?
Yes, because if an all-powerful being who was all good, all loving, all carrying all of these traits that the classical Christian God inhabits, then he completely lacks the ability to self-reflect, because having all of those traits means that negates his ability to self-reflect. Because if he's 100% just, kind, loving, wise, and all of those things, he's the epitome of all of that stuff.
Sure. But why would I want to get my morality from an entity that can't reflect on its own past behavior? What can I possibly learn from that?
You can learn, because then in the New Testament, we have Christ, and that is when Christ was sent for 2 reasons: to save man from his sins. I don't believe in substitutory atonement. I believe in Christa Victor.
That's literally what that means. Substitutionary atonement is literally Christ being sent to save man from his sins. You just contradict yourself in the span of one fucking sentence, dude.
No, I didn't, because Christus Victor is saving us from not the consequences of sin, but the power of sin. But anyways, New Testament, Christ comes to earth, which is the conscious, self-reflecting representation of God. And he could only get that by becoming human. And so that is why the Old Testament is 100% God. New Testament is as well, but what it is a story of God allowing himself the ability to self-reflect.
So humans are superior to God because we have a power that God does not have.
Superior, I think, is a wrong word.
Well, you're just saying that we have a power that God doesn't have. The ability to self-reflect, which is a new argument that I've ever heard.
So I'm not saying that God doesn't have, it's tough. It's tough to explain because where this comes from, I'm thinking, is the book of Job. Like, the only way you can vindicate God's actions in the book of Job and make God the morally correct with his behavior and actions in the book of Job is if God doesn't have the ability to self-reflect. Because remember, he tells Job, gird up your loins, it's I who will question you. We read that as essentially God making fun of Job, and I think part of it is comedic, but part of it is God coming to understand he doesn't have the ability to self-reflect.
So God ruined Job's life because God does not have the ability to understand what it means to be human and how things affect humans. That does not sound like, that doesn't sound like an omniscient, all-powerful being. That sounds like a deeply flawed and, quite frankly, psychopathic being. And again, how am I supposed to learn get my morality from such a being? And you said the New Testament, you said Jesus. Well, Jesus left a lot of unanswered questions too. Plus, Jesus also said some pretty immoral things regarding things like, plucking out your own eyes because you find a woman attractive. I mean, I don't find that morality. I find that crazy. But nevertheless, I feel like you're just kind of making this up as you go along because it's the only way you can justify all of the horrible things that Yahweh is described as doing in the Bible.
No, I'm not actually. Carl Jung wrote a book called Answer to Job where he explains the idea of God very explicitly and explains how basically God can be all-knowing, all-good, everything we prescribe to God, and yet still behave in some of the manners in which he does in the Old Testament. And why
No, you can't be good. You can't be good if you can't understand what good is, and if you can't self-reflect, then how can you even call anything good or evil?
Well, the omniscience piece, for example, if you get a Hershey bar, let's say, I ate a chocolate bar, I know what it tastes like, it tastes very yummy, I have that for dessert. If I go to somebody that has studied chocolate, knows every single particle and chemical in that chocolate bar, and yet has never tasted the chocolate, they're going to be more knowledgeable than me about the chocolate bar. And so you can't make the argument that God is not omniscient because he doesn't have the ability to self-reflect.
Yes, I can. That was a ridiculous analogy.
Explain the flaws in that logic.
Josh, do I know how to self-reflect?
Yes.
Do I know anything God doesn't know?
You've experienced things.
Do I know anything God doesn't know? Do I know anything God doesn't know? Is it possible to be omniscient and not know how to self-reflect?
Yes.
That's by definition. If I know how to do it, then it is in fact knowledge. And if I know something God doesn't know, then I know something God doesn't know. And if God is omniscient, then God has to know at least everything I know, because what I know is knowable. God doesn't necessarily have to know unknowable things, but God would have to by the way, does God know my mind?
Yes.
So God does know self-reflection through me, right?
That's tough because the Old Testament is very,
no. The Old Testament isn't. I don't know why. Why are you drawing a distinction between the Old Testament and the New Testament? We're still talking about one God, right?
Yes, but we're talking about a subconscious, and then we're talking about his consciousness. It's the
Okay,
Old Testament,
you're just making
God's
shit up.
subconscious.
Nothing. You're just making shit up because nothing you're talking about is biblical. Was God conscious in the Garden of Eden?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was God conscious in the Garden of Eden when he talked to Adam and Eve?
No.
God was not conscious when he had a conversation with Adam and Eve. That's pretty good. That is all powerful to be able to have a conversation with the first two people you create and not be conscious. Hey, can God create stuff without even existing? Because that would be really good.
No, you're misunderstanding, I think. What I'm trying to
I'm not
explain.
I'm not misunderstanding. When Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am, is Jesus describing a period of time when he wasn't conscious?
He's describing a period of time in which he was subconscious.
In which he was subconscious. Wow. How did you determine that? Do you have some expertise in the consciousness and subconsciousness of gods or anybody?
I'm not an expert in it, but I mean,
we know you're not an expert.
In the Bible.
So how did you determine that the Old Testament God who wrestled with people, who delivered the so God wasn't conscious when he delivered the 10 Commandments on a tablet to Moses?
No, he was operating with this creation in a subconscious manner.
Okay. I apologize. I'm going to have to drop you now because I will say things that aren't nice, and I don't feel like saying things that aren't nice. Thanks for calling, Josh.
That was some crazy stoner logic.
Yeah. To the person in chat who said, make it stop, I did. Now, I don't give up. We know I don't give up because it's 23 years I've been sitting here doing this. And while I will say the overwhelming majority of callers have in general gotten much worse, both at their ability to understand or defend the Bible or religion in general, I'm not ready to give up. I did see a super chat come in, and we'll read super chats at the end of the show, but this one was from Justin, Deconstruction Zone, and he was pointing out that the specific Hebrew phrase in 2 Samuel 12 is God speaking in the causative first person Hebrew, which means he is causing the trouble to be raised. And so this is when Nathaniel is basically speaking on behalf of God, or when God is there via Nathaniel's message through that rebuke. Because it says, for saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this son. The Hebrew words, I mean, that's first person, I'm gonna fuck you up. It reminds me of this great song that The Hand of the Almighty,
I love that
by
song.
John R. Butler. I haven't heard it in a long time, and I won't play it because I don't want it to get a copyright strike. But if you, dear viewers and friends, if you want to get a really good laugh, go after the show's over. Don't you dare go now. If you leave now to go listen to this, you got to come back and give a super chat and say how awesome it was. But this song's called Hand of the Almighty by John R. Butler. I will, though, before we go into the next call, just because it amuses me, I will read you the lyrics if I can find them. I've sang it before with guitar, but It says, it's kind of a rednecky, bluegrassy type thing. It's, "O sinner, do not stray from the straight and narrow way, for the Lord is surely watching what you do. If you approach the devil's den, don't turn around, don't enter in, lest the hand of the Almighty fall on you. He'll fuck you up. He'll fuck you up. Yes, God will fuck you up if you dare to disobey his stern commands. He'll fuck you up. He'll fuck you up. Don't you know he'll fuck you up? So you better do some praying while you can. Long ago, a man named Lot had a wife he thought was hot, but she could not stop her black and sinful ways. You know, it was her own damn fault when God turned that bitch to salt. That's the way he used to work back in those days." You guys should check it out. Sorry for my butchering of it.
No, that was great. And I'm definitely going to listen to it after.
If I had a guitar, it'd be better. I have a guitar. It's just downstairs. Anyway, the point that Justin was making is that this isn't just the coincidence that people would like to write it off. This is the God of the Bible, evidently, according to Josh, subconsciously saying that he is going to bring these evil things upon you. There's a whole nother verse, but hey, we've got actual callers, and I don't want to make them wait. Mark is a theist from Nevada. Him says, "God is not an evil person." You know what, Mark? I agree with you, but only because I don't think there is a God, but you probably do. So tell us which God you're advocating for and why you don't think God is evil.
Thank you for having me. The God of the Bible is who I advocate for, and I think that he isn't evil because there's no evidence in the Bible that he is.
So do you think that God had David's wives raped?
I don't know if, like, so when you use the word rape, I don't think I've ever read a translation that uses that word. So maybe I don't read like the Hebrew. Is that
okay?
Supported by the Hebrew?
What would you call it? What would you call it if God comes to you, like if you did something bad and God sends you a messenger and God says, "I'm going to cause your wives to be the recipients of intercourse from someone in your family as a punishment for you." Now, you may not want to call that rape. Maybe all those wives were actually consenting and just super freaks. But if God's using this as a punishment, would that be immoral?
Looking in the case of David, no.
It's not immoral as a punishment for someone to have their wives.
No.
Okay. Why not? Would it be immoral if you did it?
Would it be immoral if I did it, like just randomly to a random person?
No, if you decided to punish someone by having sex with their wives, sorry, plural.
Then it would be immoral on many different reasons. First off,
Okay. So why isn't it immoral if God does it? Why isn't it immoral if God does it?
Because first, when you look in the case of David, the punishment was a result of adultery. The key thing that God uses is he says, "What you did in secret, I am going to cause you, or I am going to do in public." That's basically
yes. I'm aware, but so if somebody has an affair and has the husband of the person killed, you're saying it is moral to punish them by having their wives assaulted in public.
If it's done by God, yeah.
Cool. And so now we're back to the question that I asked you before that you dodged by telling me the story that I know very well and just did a video on recently. And that is, why is it okay when God does it?
Well, because from my standpoint, he's the source of morality.
So under your view, you're saying God isn't evil because everything God does, no matter how evil it might appear to us, it's still good, right?
Yeah. I mean, who am I to judge God?
Okay. So you don't actually have a moral view. God can do whatever and there's nothing that God can do that you wouldn't say is okay.
No. I mean, there's
cool.
Nothing he has that I don't think is.
So then I don't need you to call in and say that God isn't evil, because what you're saying is not that God isn't evil according to reasonable standards, according to the standards we would apply to anybody or the situation. You're saying everything God does is necessarily good, no matter how we might view it.
Well, like I said, from my standpoint, yes, I'm trying to challenge your thinking. That's why you think it's okay to judge God.
You're not challenging my thinking. You're not challenging my thinking. You are embarrassing yourself, because you're saying that if God decides to flood everybody and kill all the babies on the planet except for 8 people, that's good. If God decides to use rape as a punishment, that's good. If God decides to murder the innocent, I'm still talking. If God decides to murder the innocents, that's good. Everything that God does, no matter how repugnant and repulsive, if God decides to sanction slavery, that's also good, right?
Hey, let me answer you a question. Why do you focus
No. That was a question.
That was a question.
Mark, that was a question. That was a question, Mark. You got to answer it first. I know I ask a lot of questions. That's the purpose of the fucking show.
Like 8 questions.
No, I just asked you. So
I'm trying to answer them.
I'm sorry. Is 8 too many for your brain? How about 1 then?
No, if you want me to answer them in an order, I'll do it.
If God, I just want you to answer just this one. If God sanctions slavery, is that good?
Depends on the context.
No, it doesn't depend on the context. You already said that if God does it, it's good. What? Give me the context. Give me the context under which slavery is good. I dare you.
So when you hear slavery in the Bible, do you assume it means what white people did to black people in the Americas?
Oh, yes, because it absolutely does. If you go, yeah, it absolutely does, because it is absolutely what it means. I've been lecturing on this and debating on it for more than 20 years. In Exodus chapter 21, what's it say?
I don't have a Bible with me, so you can just...
I do. I always have my Bible with me, so buckle up, Buttercup. In Exodus 21, there's 2 different sets of rules for slaves. One for Hebrew slaves, where you have to let them go after 7 years, but you can also trick them into becoming your slaves forever. And then it continues on to give instructions on how you must buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you, that they become, some of this extends into Leviticus 25 and Deuteronomy. I'm going to forget which one it was, but I can look it up because I've got my Bible in front of me, because I'm always ready for this, because I used to believe this stuff and I used to teach this stuff and I was going to be a preacher. So, Leviticus 25 extends this to be, they are your property, they are your money, you can pass them on to your children as an inheritance. You can beat them as long as they don't die within a couple of days. So the Bible advocates for owning people as property, passing them on as inheritance, and beating them as long as they don't die within a couple of days. That is chattel slavery. And even if it were just indentured servitude, that is also immoral. So while you're going to sit here as yet another apologist for slavery, you probably should have just gone with if God says that it's good, because once you start saying it's dependent on context, you have now undermined your entire argument from before, because now you're saying God's actions are contextually good or not, rather than God's actions are always good. Would you care to try it again?
No, I said that God's actions are always good, and I said it depends on the context. That means you have to understand what it means at that certain time. At the time,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. No, I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. But if God is all, if what God says is always good, then it's not contingent on context. It cannot be contingent. It must be good.
It is. How time
I'm sorry. Do you understand what contingent means?
I don't know, really.
No, I know you don't, which is why it was really stupid of you to say context, because that's what you're trying to say it's contingent on. And I asked you what context it was okay to permit slavery. And you tried to then spin it as if the slavery in the Bible wasn't the slavery, the chattel slavery of the antebellum South, because you don't know what you're talking about, and you just try to deflect to whatever apologetics someone has handed you. So if I did the things that God, if I did the things that the God of the Bible did, if I advocated for the things the God of the Bible advocates for, would they be immoral, yes or no?
Today, yeah, it'd probably be immoral.
No, I'm sorry. Do you think it was moral at one point in time to own people as property and beat them, but it's not now?
Yeah, at what point the understanding of what that meant was different back then.
No. So you're saying, okay, I'm making sure that I'm clear. You're saying once upon a time, it was morally permissible to own people as property and beat them, right?
Because it was different at the time.
I didn't ask you because. I didn't ask you why. I asked you a yes or no question. I want to make sure we're very clear because this is
a very
no. What I'm trying to do is finish my thought, and then I'm going to mute, and I'm going to let you continue to embarrass yourself because I was a better Christian than you when I was a Christian, and I'm probably a better Christian than you are now because I actually know this stuff. But here we go. Are you saying that once upon a time? I'm sorry. Are you saying that once upon a time it was morally permissible to own people as property and beat them as long as they didn't die within a couple of days? Yes or no?
At specific times, yes, because
I'm sorry, that was a yes or no question. Here, I'm going to mute you. See, you're right. I'm doing this just to irritate you and piss you off because I find you not only smug, but absolutely immoral. I'm offering you the chance to defend your view if you are capable of answering the yes or no question that I asked you without trying to inject extra. I'm going to ask you this question one more time, and you're going to answer with either a yes or no. If you answer with anything else, I will drop you. If you answer with a yes or no, I will mute myself, and you can explain to my co-host when it was morally permissible and why. So here we go again. I'm going to unmute you. Wait. Are you saying, I'm sorry, are you saying that it was once upon a time morally permissible, morally correct to own people as property and beat them as long as they don't die within a couple of days? Yes or no?
Yes, because that time period.
No. Oh, Mark, Guy, you're such a fragile little bitch. I said if you answered just yes or no, I'd let you go on to explain and I would mute myself. But you had to say yes because. So now we're going to try this again. We're going back to kindergarten. I'm going to let you do the because. You don't get to decide when you do the because. It's my fucking show. That's why. That's because. So here we go. Once more time. Let me unmute. You want to talk about what a man is? Okay.
Yeah, because clearly
I'll talk to
one. Let's say no a man talk.
I'm not a man. Why am I not a man?
Yes or no
Why am I not a man? Why am I not a man, you little bitch?
Because you're a liar and a manipulator, bro. Ain't nobody talk like this, bro. You have a genuine
when have I
with
lied?
Somebody, you don't
when have I lied?
Saying, all I think
when have I lied?
Yes or no question.
When have I lied?
Try to prove your point.
When
bro.
have I lied? When have I lied?
Like I said, bro, if you're going to be a man,
when
then
have I
act
lied?
as a man. If not, then you're going to
when have I lied? When have I lied?
You said, I'll tell you when you lied. You said that you told me to answer with just yes or no, and you didn't say just yes or no. You said,
oh, you're a liar. You could rewind. Let's put a poll up and somebody can rewind. Here we go. We're going to try this one more time, Mark. We're going to see if you're going to keep crashing out or if you're going to get a chance to defend yourself. Here we go. Don't say anything when I unmute you. I'm going to ask you a yes or no question. If you answer it with only yes or no, I will mute myself. You remember me saying this before? Oh, Mark ran away. Well, you're a real man, Mark. You're a real man. Call back, Mark. We'll ignore the entire slavery discussion. We'll ignore your garbage about morals. We'll ignore the fact that you're a fragile little bitch that crashes out. And we'll have a conversation where you can explain to me what a real man is. I'd like to know. Because I don't think you making excuses for immorality and pretending that your invisible, intangible, non-existent friend is somehow above morality and that you have any understanding of this. I don't find that to be consistent with a real man. But I want to know what you think, Mark. I tell you what, Mark, we're going to move on to another caller, and there's another one potentially after that, Mark. But Mark, if you call back, I promise you, guaranteed, I will stay muted for the entirety of your call, even if it kills me, even if my head explodes, while you explain to Peach how you're a real man and I'm not.
No, I don't care about that. I wanted to know when and at what point did the God's decree on slavery being okay, when was that rescinded? When did it stop being okay? And was it when we human beings figured out that it's immoral and indefensible to own other human beings as property. Not that, a God decided that.
It's really weird too, because if God's all knowing and all powerful and God is moral, then why in the 10 Commandments isn't one of them, thou shalt not own another person as property? Seems pretty straightforward to me. If you can outlaw eating shellfish, if you can require no graven images, I think you could have started with like, don't own people the way I owned Mark. All right, here we go. Eli. Eli's a theist from Texas. Pronouns are he, him. And Eli says, we do need a God for morals. Eli, what God do we need and why do we need a God for morals?
We need the God that, hold on a second. I don't have a, look, you have to give me a little bit of grace here because I lost my glasses today. So all my notes and stuff like that. So I'm trying to read my notes as best as I can, but, so hold on. Let me pull up what I got. We need the God that wrote Matthew 19:8.
Eli, you know what's really weird is all I asked is what God and why do we need him? And evidently you need your glasses to tell me which God.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 40 years old, bro. I mean,
So seriously, you don't know which God you're going to advocate for unless you have your glasses?
Oh, no. Well, I'm going to advocate for the Christian God.
Okay, cool. So you could have answered that part without your glasses, right?
Yeah. I was just getting my notes ready, dude.
Well, you've been on hold for 18 minutes. Why don't you have your notes ready already?
I mean, I was doing stuff too.
Okay. Well, should I put you back in the queue until you're ready and go on to another call, or are you ready?
No, I'm good now. I mean, I'm not going to stick around too long. Just time a little bit.
I can probably bet that that's true. But go ahead. Tell us why we need God.
I mean, it's kind of touched base on what you guys were talking about earlier, right? About morals and stuff like that. About slavery and all that. And you kept, and I had his answer for him, but I see you pulling up a lot of the old covenant, a lot of the old moral, the old laws and stuff like that. And we don't, as Christians, we're not called to live in the old covenant. We're not. Jesus got rid of that. He fulfilled the old covenant. He said, "I came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law."
By the old covenant, do you mean the Old Testament?
Yeah, the Old Testament. So I mean, everything that's in the almost the 717 Mosaic laws, we don't live under that.
You mean 613? I know you don't have your glasses, but it's 613. But so you're saying we don't have to live by the 10 Commandments anymore, right?
No, we still we don't. Well, the 10 Commandments is different from the Mosaic laws. You know that.
No, it's not.
No,
it's literally the first 10 of the 613.
Yes, it is. Yes,
no,
it
it's
is,
not.
Because
no, it's not.
Who was given the 10 Commandments?
No, it's not.
Who was given the 10 Commandments?
Moses.
Okay, and what does Mosaic mean?
I mean,
Moses.
Moses. I know what Mosaic means. Yes.
Okay, so if it was given to Moses, then it's part of the Mosaic law.
And then there's the Mosaic, laws are separate. They're not the same thing. Because
how are they not the same thing?
I mean, then they will be all in the same in the 10 Commandments. It won't be the 10 Commandments. It'll be the freaking 600.
The 10 Commandments are just the 10 first laws in that list that you just named off.
Yeah, I hear you.
Crickets.
But look, like I said, we're not called to live in the old covenant. I don't live in the shadows of the past. Jesus calls us to live in righteousness within Him.
The New Testament is also part of the past.
with him and, Matthew 19:8. So the biblical law can restrain sinful human institutions without presenting those institutions as the creation idea.
That's not Matthew 19:8.
So
Matthew 19:8 is about divorce.
no. 19 is when Jesus says that I can. Hold on.
You don't know your Bible better than me, so don't try. Matthew 19:8 is about Mosaic laws on divorce.
Yeah. When Jesus gives
Jesus also said
that God did not
Jesus also said that not a jot or a tittle of the law will change until all has come to pass.
God did not intended for us to be divorced. The same thing as God did not intend us to old slaves that was given to.
I'm sorry, Eli. Eli.
Yes. I'm here, brother.
I don't care.
I hear you.
I don't care if you think God intended us to be divorced. Jesus only allowed divorce in the case of one thing, and that was fornication, right?
Yes, cheating.
So cheating or fornication, yes. So Jesus permits divorce if your spouse fucks around, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why doesn't Jesus permit divorce if you're being beaten?
The way I would answer that, right, is
that's why I'm asking you. I'm not asking somebody else.
Yeah. So the way I look at that, right, I'm a biblical man. I like to live by the Bible. I like to,
No, you
live.
don't.
I mean, I try my best, brother.
No, you don't.
I mean, you don't know me.
If you lived by the Bible, you would be ready under 1 Peter 3:15 to give a reason for the faith within you, and you would also let your yes be yes and your no be no. But instead of telling me why Jesus doesn't permit divorce for people who are beaten, you decide to tell me a story about how you like to live by the Bible. I didn't ask you whether you like to live by the Bible. I asked you, why doesn't Jesus allow divorce for people who are being beaten?
Well, if you let me finish.
Oh, Eli, listen really carefully. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah.
For a bit. Don't you ever tell me, let me finish, when I asked you a question and your ass got called out for dodging that question instead of answering it.
No, I'm not dodging. I'm not
Stop,
dodging.
shut your mouth.
I'm not dodging question.
Stop talking. You absolutely dodged the question. What was the question I asked you, Eli?
Why does God not permit divorce if you're being beaten?
Correct. Does your attempt to live by the Bible have anything to do at all with why God doesn't permit divorce for being beaten?
Yeah, it does.
No, it fucking doesn't, dumbass. Nothing about your life is relevant, or what you try to do is relevant to why God doesn't stop talking. Nothing about you trying to live a godly life can tell us anything about why God doesn't allow divorce for people who are beaten. Are you off your meds?
Okay. No. I mean, I don't take medication, brother.
Well, you should look into that. Because let me tell you the basics.
Human being.
No, you're not just a human being trying to talk to another human being. I'm going to mute you. You don't understand the basics of a simple argument. If I said to you, why does Jim not like peas? And you said, I try to be a biblical man. You're not even in the ballpark of answering the question. The same is true in syllogistic form. If you were to do that and substitute things for when I say, why doesn't God allow divorce for being beaten? You telling me you try to live by the Bible is irrelevant to what God's motivations are. Everything about you is irrelevant to what God's motivations are. Everything about you and your life and what you strive to do is irrelevant to how or why God does or doesn't do anything. Just like whether you live a biblical life is not in all relevant to why Peach hasn't interrupted me yet. If I asked you, why hasn't Peach interrupted me yet? And you said you try to live a biblical life, you would be avoiding the question. So let's start over, Eli. And let me make this as fair for you as possible, because I listened to your call from yesterday, actually. And you are horribly confused and don't know what you're talking about, and you make shit up. And you don't know your Bible. And that's why I came in with the thing right off the bat. You're like Matthew 19:8, and you didn't even know what it was about. That was a passage about divorce. That's why it's in your head, because you were trying to reference it yesterday. But you keep saying God didn't intend for us to be divorced. None of us care whether God intends for us to be divorced or not. I think divorce is a moral good many, if not most times. Because if two people do not want to be together, whether it's for infidelity, whether it is for abuse, whether it is they no longer love each other, whether it is they found their life is better off somewhere else, whether they find that their relationship just doesn't work, they are almost always better off separating, and everybody's life is improved. Do you have any idea how many women's lives and men's lives, but women more often, have been destroyed by religions preventing them from being divorced, by the Bible viewing them as property, by it only being about women engaged in fornication and not men engaged in fornication? Why this double standard? Well, God didn't want us to get divorced. I don't give a fuck what God wanted. I'm asking you, why did Jesus only allow divorce for fornication and not for abuse, or for people who don't love each other, or for people who found love elsewhere, or for people who just don't want to be married? What is morally wrong or objectionable for God, not you, for God to prevent divorce under any of the circumstances? Let's try this again, and I'll mute.
All right, we'll try this again. So here we go. So I'm sorry about that to upset you. I wasn't trying to, dodge the crowd. I was going to answer your question, but I just didn't know how to structure it.
Liar, 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 liar. I'm muted. I'm gonna let you try again. Do not talk to me. Don't mention me. Don't bring up my name. You will not like what happens. Don't apologize to me. I don't like liars. Defend your position.
Okay. So we're called to live sacrificially, right? For our spouses. So the plan was never to be with someone that was going to abuse you. The plan was God wanted you to find a spouse that you see God in. The way that Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross for us, right, is how we should be self-sacrificing for our spouse, putting our spouse's needs above our own personal needs. So God never intended for us to divorce.
Eli,
God
the question was, why is divorce not allowed for domestic abuse?
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I'm giving you my answer.
Okay, well, I know. I know why.
If you get,
I know why. It's because it's for the same reason as fornication being allowed, because it's not so much about being betrayed by your wife. And again, all of these laws only apply to the woman stepping out, not the man. It was a crime of theft in their eyes. Someone violated their private property, which was their wife, which is why they could beat their wives. That's why it wasn't grounds for divorce.
I don't know. I wasn't taught that, but okay. Well, I just give you my idea. That's it. I mean, just want to chime in, conversate, But I'll keep on watching the show. God bless you guys. And even though I don't know who that guy is.
Eli, you had so much more yesterday. Are men and women equal in the Bible?
Oh yeah, they're equal.
Then why are women required to cover their head and men aren't?
That was in the Church of Corinth. That wasn't.
I know where the fuck it was, Eli. I asked you why. Why are men? Wow. Eli, In Corinthians,
what's up, brother?
I'm not your brother. The Bible advocates. I'm not your friend. Absolutely not your friend.
Okay, person,
Bible,
human being.
How about you just stop and listen so that I can embarrass you further as another bad representative of Christ who's not ready under 1 Peter 3:15, who wants to pretend that the Bible advocates for gender equality when it absolutely doesn't. When it says, for the man is the head of house as Christ is the head of the church, and that if men preach or prophesy with their head covered, it's shameful, but if women do it uncovered, it's shameful. Why is there a different set of rules on who can own property and who can inherit property and what the order of property inheritance is? Why are men and women valued differently as slaves? Why are men mentioned throughout the Bible, but women are almost always not mentioned by name? They're typically mentioned as so-and-so's wife, so-and-so's concubine, or somebody else's property across the board. And yet, why are there so many wives and concubines? And why does God have David's wives sexually assaulted by somebody in his own family as a punishment to David? Why does God kill the firstborn? Why does God take things away? Why does God curse women? Why did God set them up for failure in the Garden of Eden? And why did God curse women? Don't pretend that the book says they're equal. It's not even fucking close. At no point does it advocate for equality for women.
I don't necessarily believe in that we're equal. I think the Bible teaches us that we are opposites that complement each other. So, I mean, God calls the men to be.
I'm sorry. Opposites that complement each other is also not true. But also, that doesn't explain why we're not equal and why it specifically has inequalities.
God calls men to be spiritual leaders of their homes, right? So if you go to any church today, you go to any church, 9 times out of 10, it's mostly for women.
No, I'm sorry, Eli, you are the king of excuses. You are completely incapable of addressing the topic honestly. I'm throwing out scripture, and you're talking about whether or not modern churches are mostly women.
No, you were talking about that verse when God
I've talked about a lot of verses.
To be the spiritual leaders of their homes.
What about Isaiah 3:12? What about Isaiah 3:12?
What does Isaiah 3:12? I don't know the Bible. I mean, I know. I read.
I know
the Bible
you don't know the Bible. I know you don't know the Bible. I know you don't know the Bible. I know you don't. I know you don't. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know you don't. I know you don't know that. I know you don't know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know you don't know the Bible, which is why it's embarrassing for you to call in and tell us what you think about it, because what you think is a fiction invented in your own head, because you are a better person than the Bible that you're advocating for. You would be a better person. You would be a better God than the God of the Bible. But you fail to recognize that because you are still in servility. You think God called us to be in servitude. Where is your evidence that there is a God at all who expects anything of any of us?
Well, the evidence is life itself, creation. You can't say
no,
that.
Life is not evidence. Life is not evidence of a God, and it's certainly not evidence of the Christian God. Life is evidence of life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is I don't mean to just bounce. My wife's calling me in. So, look.
Well, you should go listen to her. Let her be in charge because you're not equipped.
Excuse me?
You should go listen to her and let her be in charge because you're not equipped.
Oh, yeah, she's in charge sometimes.
No, she should be in charge all the time. I mean, normally I advocate for equality, but in your case, your wife needs to be in charge.
All right, man. Hey, are you always like this, like all the time?
Am I always honest and demanding that people who pretend to know? No, interrupt me again. Am I always honest and demanding that people call in to pretend to speak for fucking God, actually defend it and justify it? You bet. because I was a Christian at the age of 5. I was active in the ministry, was going to be a preacher, studied this stuff. It's the most important thing ever. And it's embarrassing to me as a former Christian to watch people like you who don't know a thing about what you're talking about misrepresent it because you're a decent person trying to turn a religion that has poisoned your brain into something that's not as bad as it actually is. Yes, I'm always like this. And if you're not ready to defend your beliefs with actual evidence, when somebody asks you, what reason do you have to believe there's a God? And you just say, life is evidence of God, you're admitting that you do not understand life, where life comes from, science, what we understand about it, what could possibly demonstrate a God, and that even if life must have some origin beyond nature, that doesn't mean that it's a God. That doesn't mean that God still exists. It doesn't mean it's the Christian God. You are a brand spanking new, incredibly confused person. And I appreciate the fact that you, unlike most people, and this is the only praise I'm going to give you, Eli, you, unlike most people, are at least willing to go out and put yourself out there, even if what you're saying is ridiculous and embarrassing. And I hope that in the process of getting embarrassed, it causes you to try to do better, because that's how I got here. Trying to be the best defender of Christ that I could be, because that's what I thought God wanted. That's how I got to here. I learned. I actually understood what it said, and I went out and branched beyond that to epistemology, to philosophy, to science. You need to do that. I hope you do.
All right. Well, you know what? You just give me some encouragement. Thank you. We'll talk later.
Oh.
God bless.
I doubt it. All right.
It wasn't that bad. It seems to I don't know, when Christians are backed into a corner, they do tend to start lying, but I think he was so lost that he wasn't even aware of it. I'm
not doing very good on the mute or even remain calm or even let the guest talk. Let's see if I can fix that, because we have one caller left. And then we'll do super chats. And I really want, like, I want you to enjoy this, and I want to get you back to do more of this, and hope that we get more callers and stuff like that. So,
I am enjoying this. I thought Josh was probably one of my favorites so far, but yeah, I am very much enjoying this.
Well, good. So, unless you or George feel a need for me, I'm going to start this off. Welcome, George. I'm going to slip downstairs and get myself a glass of ice water or something. It's going to be a minute or so. And Arden's here too, but here we go. Let's try this. George is a theist from California, pronouns are he, him, wants to defend his God belief. Hey, George, it'd probably be a good idea, and welcome, if you started off by describing to Peach which George, or sorry, not which George you're defending, which God you're defending. Maybe George is God. Maybe he's defending himself. Which God you're defending, and specifically why you think we should share your belief. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I just like to say that I would be a little bit upset myself if people wouldn't answer my question. So I understand what's going on. I'm not going to be that way, okay? I'm going to try and answer the question and not dodge it. I was disappointed with what I heard before also. So I'm a Christian, Bible-believing Christian. Been so for around many years. But I wish I could have answered some of the questions that you threw out, because they're good questions. And I know that sometimes Christians, they don't study their Bibles, or they don't, they're not very capable at certain doctrines, or, they're maybe light Christians where they're not super, into the Bible. And, that's according to the Bible, we're saved by faith, by the grace of God. So it's not by knowledge of a certain amount or, a lot of study. It's just by believing in Jesus because it's a gift of God, right? That's what Ephesians 2:8 says, that we're saved by grace through faith. We all deserve hell, according to the Bible. And because of God's love for us, he sends his son to die for the sins of the world so that we, humans who deserve hell and deserve the punishment of God, could live forever with him. It's an awesome message. You know, it's a beautiful thing. I understand it offends a lot of people. The gospel pleases some and it offends others. And I understand that. But that's the reality of it. I mean,
Okay.
there is a hell. Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. So you've mentioned a couple of things because you just referred to. Well, okay. Let me go back. All right. So you said that we are, or Christians rather, are saved by faith rather than knowledge, and that we all deserve hell. Why do we deserve hell?
Okay. So yeah. Here's the thing. Okay. So the God of the Bible, who I believe is a true God, is holy. And that word means separate. It also means that he is completely perfect. He's righteous. He is truly good, but he is so righteous that he must judge sin. So you see, we all want good people, right? We want good people. We don't want to live next to a murderer or rapist, you know.
But
robbers,
most of us
right?
are not
Okay.
murderers, and most of us are not rapists. So why do we all deserve hell?
Because of our sin.
What sins?
For example, disobedience to God. So, for example, right? We live here. You're in the United States, right? Obviously. Okay.
I do.
So, yeah. Okay. So there's rules here, right? There's laws that if you obey, you get certain treatment. If you disobey those rules, you get a different kind of treatment, right? So, for example, if you went and you did some crimes, you would probably be judged and sent to jail, right? And you wouldn't complain, oh, the government. You would know that that's just the way it is.
I absolutely would complain if the supposed crime was a completely arbitrary rule that a tyrant made up, and I would definitely oppose it if the punishment was forever and torture, which is what hell is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. I understand. So here's the thing, right? But you agree with the notion that I just mentioned, right? That the government has rules, there's laws that we must obey so that we live freely, right? You agree with that?
I don't think the government is completely perfect, and I don't have any desire to worship the government. The government passes laws by consent of the people, or at least it's supposed to. It's not dictated on high just because. And there is a purpose for those laws, and that is to keep people from hurting each other. It's, for example, there is no law that says that I can be, what was the term you used? Not being associated with God. There is no law for that. Because we have a separation of church and state. If they tried to pass a law like that, obviously it would be unconstitutional. But the whole point is that it would be completely arbitrary. And the punishment, whatever punishment it would be, if they tried to impose it forever, well, that's certainly not a beautiful thing, as you called it.
Okay, so I understand, and yeah, But here's the thing. Look, think about this for a second. Okay, please just let me explain myself, and you tell me what you think. So let's assume that the God of the Bible is the true God for a second. Okay, let's just assume that he is. Let's assume that he is holy, like I said, that he is holy, that he must judge sin, and that he made a way for sinners not to go to hell. Okay?
By sacrificing
So,
his son.
yeah, by
Committing
sacrificing
a human
himself.
sacrifice. Okay, but he
Yeah,
is God, right?
okay.
But he is God.
Yeah.
He is all perfect. Is that correct? He is all perfect. He is all knowing. He is omniscient and all powerful. Is all that correct?
Yes.
Then why does he need to kill his own son to save our souls? Why not just make us perfect like him?
Okay, well, here's the thing. So, do you have a husband? Can I ask you that question? Just okay. So
I do not have a
let's
husband.
assume you're married. Okay. Let's assume for a second that you're married, right? You get married. You find a man. You get married. Okay. I'm just gonna. So, would you want that man to love you for who you are, or to be forced to live with you just because you don't want to be alone? What would be the right thing?
I'm not really following the relevance of this question.
Yeah. Okay. Let me explain it this way. Okay. Let's say there's a man that lives close to where you live, right? And he falls in love with you, and he's head over heels over you, right? He just wants you. He wants you as his wife. Okay. Can he force you to be his wife, even though you don't want to be his wife, even you have no feelings for him, you have no interest?
No, according to the Bible, he can.
Force you? No.
Yes. Oh, yes. He can. All he has to do is rape me and then pay my father some money, and then I have to marry him and he can never divorce me.
Well, that was in the Old Testament, and technically it didn't, because if you read in Genesis.
Why do you always keep saying that? Because it was in the Old Testament, it doesn't count anymore. Then why is it still part of your holy book?
Well, here's the thing. The Old Testament is God's covenant with the Jewish people. When the Messiah came, actually John the Baptist, who is actually part of the New Testament, he was the last prophet of the Old Testament. And when Jesus came, when the Messiah came to the earth and fulfilled all the Old Testament prophecies and all this, he made a new covenant in his blood. And so the new covenant now is not of the Jewish people and God, it's between the church and
That's
God.
not what that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said that he wasn't there to change any of the old laws.
He actually said that he fulfilled them.
He said that the laws would stay the same until
to fulfill. Yeah.
Yeah. So right to fulfill the meaning that the old laws were still in place. He didn't say they no longer applied.
But you see, when Jesus was in Jerusalem, when he was in his last week, he actually prophesied the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in the Old Covenant. And that actually happened a few years after his death and resurrection. So even the Jews of today,
so
in
what
Israel,
you're saying
they don't have a
so what
place
you're
to
saying
worship.
is when the Gospels were written, they made it so that Jesus predicted something happening a few years later, and they put that in when they wrote it hundreds of years later. And that's supposed to prove something?
Well, here's the thing: if you don't want to believe that, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't call you out on that. I'm just saying what you asked me a question, so I answered. But I understand what you're saying. But I just want you to know that we're not Christians of today. We're not in the old covenant. I mean, I don't have to. For example, I don't have to worship on the Sabbath. And that's a commandment. That's one of the strongest and highest valuable commandments of the Old Testament. And Christians don't even follow it. We don't have to circumcise.
Okay, so the Ten Commandments are no longer necessary. So the Ten Commandments are no longer apply.
No, they do, except for the one of the Sabbath.
Where does it say that one doesn't apply anymore?
In the book of Acts. you see, in the book of Acts, when the church, let me explain something real quick. In the New Testament, when Christians, the majority of the Christians that were, becoming Christians were Jews. And then also some of the Gentiles became Christians. And so the Christians, the very first Christians, they were like, well, what do we have to do? Is it just believing in Jesus, or do we have to obey the Old Testament? And they had these reunions where, excuse me, my kids are here. Over there. So they had these assessments where they had to decide which of the Old Testament laws they still had to obey. And one of the ones that they didn't have to obey anymore was the Sabbath. And that's pretty clear because, I mean, there's only one denomination, basically, of Christians that worship on Saturday, which is the Seventh-day Adventists. And we believe they're heretics because of it. But here's the thing. Let me just go back to what I was saying, that so God, as I've been studying the Bible for 20 years, okay, he is so holy that he cannot live with sin. And
like
that,
a
I
God
understand
problem.
that's very, excuse me?
So it sounds like God's problem. So George, I've been studying the Bible for a lot longer than 20 years. I've been studying it for 52 years. Was going to be a preacher.
Okay.
You've said nothing. You've said nothing at all that I'm not familiar with. How do you know that there is a perfect God? How do you know that there is a perfect God who cannot stand sin?
What is your first name? Sorry?
Matt.
Matt. Nice to meet you, Matt. Thank you. So, Matt, the way I see it, look, I used to be an atheist myself.
Okay, stop.
I used to be atheist.
Stop.
Okay, sorry.
Stop.
I'll stop.
I asked you a question, which is, how do you know there's an all-perfect God? I couldn't give a shit if you were an atheist. I'm unimpressed with people who are atheists. If you were a skeptic and you had become convinced of God for sound epistemology, that would be impressive. You're not going to earn any dodge points by telling me you used to be a skeptic or used to be an atheist, because technically, if you were a baby that didn't have a thought about a God, you were an atheist then too. So that's completely irrelevant. My question is, how do you know there's a perfect God that can't stand sin?
Okay, so the reason I came, do you want me to use the Bible or just outside of the Bible?
I'm asking you.
There's two ways of going about that.
What question did I just ask you?
Okay, let me answer it. Okay, so I'm going to answer it. So here's the thing: when we analyze life, okay, we see that we're born, right? We're born. We're raised by our parents or a single parent or whatever. And we find out that people die eventually, right? We see people die early. We see some people die later. We don't know why we're here on the earth. We're just, trying to live our best life. Majority of the people, we're trying to see what's going on. We don't know why we're here. We don't know why we die. And, life gets a little bit disappointing because, you invest all this time in family, in careers, in work, in building
How do
a
you
family,
know
building
that
a life.
God
Okay.
is holy?
What question did I ask you, George?
I'm answering it.
No, you're not.
You're not.
No, you're not. Let me tell you what you said. You said, when we analyze life, we're born, we're raised, we find out people die, we don't know why we're here, we're trying to live our best life. None of that has anything to do with how one could determine that there is, in fact, a God or a perfect God. In fact, when we analyze life, you're right. We are born, we are often raised, and we find out people die. And then when you get to the point where we say, we don't know why we're here, you're already making a flawed presumption. You're presuming that we're here for... No, don't you dare fucking interrupt me.
I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. When you say we don't know why we're here, there's already a hidden assumption there that there's a reason why we're here, and that biases the search results. But none of this has anything to do with how you know there's an all perfect God. So try again.
Okay, I'm really sorry for interrupting you. I'm not that type of a person.
I already said thank you. I said thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So here it goes. That was the first part of my answer. The second part is this. So we see life as just something that is here for a few years and then it ends, right? And it seems purposeless. So when we analyze what the scientists know today of how life started, it just doesn't make sense. And let me show you why there has to be a God. If I were to tell you that I don't know if you use an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever. If you got a smartphone,
I swear, George, if you do the building requires a builder, a painting requires a painter, a cell phone requires a cell phone designer, I'm going to mock you mercilessly.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's because the Big Bang, which is an explosion that started all this movement that we see in the universe. Okay. If we started an explosion with a cell phone, it would not build all the materials that are in an iPhone or whatever smartphone you use. You would never get an iPhone from that. It doesn't matter how many years would pass. You would never get that. One of our more than 300 trillion cells.
It is the watchmaker argument.
It is absolutely
than any smartphone.
George is so clueless. He does not even understand that he's given the very argument he said he wasn't going to. George, I asked you how you could know that a perfect God exists. And you went around the world on, and you went around the world on life and its meaning and purpose. And then you skipped to, when we analyze how scientists know life arose, it doesn't make sense. The fact that we don't have a complete understanding of abiogenesis doesn't mean that life had to be created by a being. It means we don't yet have a full explanation for abiogenesis. You don't get to assume that Magic Man done it is the explanation just because we don't know how it did it. By the way, you have no evidence and no justification. For example, Big Bang cosmology is not the origin of the universe. It is the expansion of the universe, and we're unable to explore it prior to the Planck time, which is the smallest fraction of time that we can analyze. And after that, the mathematics break down. There's no reason to presume that the universe hasn't always existed in some form or another, and that what we're experiencing is the expansion of it. You also don't have any evidence that over the 13.7 billion years of the expansion of the universe, that the laws of physics and chemistry cannot produce both biology and self-replicating matter that can then also produce a cell phone. In fact, all of the available evidence suggests that is exactly what happened. So how can it possibly point to a perfect God?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question really quick. I mean, but here's the thing. What I can say, as I was saying in the answer that I was giving you, I'm sorry if it was too long. But the reason, when I studied cell biology, it is just one of our trillions of cells is so complex. I'm talking it is
George,
thousands of times more complex than a cell phone, than a smartphone.
George,
and you would never believe that a smartphone would make itself.
George, nobody thinks that cells emerged from nothing, and we do not determine design by complexity. If you're walking along a river and there's a bunch of mud and sticks damming it up, was that done by a flood and natural processes, or was it built by a beaver? We recognize design by contrasting that which occurs naturally with that for which we do not have evidence of natural occurrence. We do not recognize design merely because something is complex, because nature has the ability to produce complex things constantly, and it's actually simplicity that is the hallmark of design. You can point to our cells and say, how could this arise on our own? But what you're really doing is presenting an argument from personal incredulity. You lack the understanding and imagination to think that this could possibly happen without magic. And even though you have no evidence that magic man is possible, probable, or likely, you'd rather go leaping to that conclusion and then pretend that it's also the perfect God of the Bible that is full of immoral crap than acknowledge that the right answer is you don't understand cell biology.
Well, here's the thing. I can understand why it wouldn't maybe convince you, and I understand that. So,
oh, I'm sorry. Is there something wrong with me?
Can you tell me why?
Is there something wrong with me, George? Is there something wrong with me? Is there something? Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong with me, George, that it wouldn't convince me? That you would understand why it wouldn't convince me?
No. I mean, look.
Then why does it convince you? Why does it convince you?
Well, because I believe in God. That's what that makes sense.
Do you realize what you just said? Did you realize what you just said?
Yeah.
I asked you, why do you believe in a God? And you gave me a reason. And then when I objected to it, you said you understand it wouldn't convince me, but it convinces you because you believe in a God. So you believe in a God because you believe in a God. You have built an entirely circular argument right there. You accept the arguments for God. No. You believe in God, but you accept the arguments for God because you believe in God to begin with.
No, because I heard the gospel and I believed.
Jesus Christ, George. Okay, I heard the gospel and I used to believe it, and now I don't. What's wrong with me?
Well, there's two options to your case. Okay, you're either probably in my belief system, in my theology, you were never truly a true believer. You were never born again. You were just,
that's called copium.
Maybe you brought up. Excuse me?
Okay. Number one is copium. What's the other reason?
Well, in other Christians, they have theology that you lose your salvation. That's not me. I'm more of a Reformed, Calvinistic.
Yeah, I didn't ask for your soteriology. I asked what's wrong with me. If we both heard the gospel and you believed it and I used to believe it and now I don't, you're saying I didn't used to believe it. Okay, you've decided under your view.
You were never saved.
Stop talking. Stop talking. You've decided under your stop talking, please. You've decided under your theology that I was never a sincere believer. So fuck you, George.
Didn't you used to, weren't you going to go to seminary?
No. I didn't mean it that way. And sorry, there's a delay in the phone. That's why we sometimes get caught up in the conversation that way.
Do you think I'm not aware? Do you think I'm not aware on the show that I host all the time that there's a fucking delay? You said, according to your theology, I was never a believer, right? So you are convinced I was never a believer.
Well, you're not a believer now, so it makes sense, right?
George, are you going to continue being dishonest? Did I ask you if I'm a believer now? I asked you if you are convinced that I was never a believer. Yes or fucking no?
You were never a believer.
Okay, prove it.
Because you're rejecting and blaspheming God right now.
I don't believe there's a God to reject or blaspheme, and you haven't done anything to demonstrate it. You're in a full massive overdose of copium. You can't deal with the fact that you don't have good reasons for your belief, and you can't recognize that there are other people who recognize that there aren't good reasons for your belief. So instead, you lie to yourself with a comforting lie that, oh, well, Matt was never a true believer. So let's just assume I was never a true believer. Why wasn't I a true believer?
Because God didn't choose you from the beginning of creation for salvation.
Then fuck him and fuck you. Why do you worship a God that didn't choose me?
Because he chose me.
How do you know he chose you? How can we know he chose you?
Because I believe.
No, the fact that you believe does not demonstrate that God chose you. You're just like a stalker. Yeah. You think she loves you, so you're peeking in her window. And the fact that you love her must be proof that she loves you.
Well, that's what the Bible says. That
are you a murderer, George? I don't care what. George. I don't care what the Bible says until you show me why I should care what the Bible says. Why should I care what the Bible says? Why should I care what the Bible
is the
says?
Word of God. If you don't want to hear
How
it,
do I know? How do I know? How
Oh.
do I know that the Bible is the Word of God? I'm not fucking taking George's word for it. How do I know the Bible's the Word of God, George?
Well, if you analyze the Bible, if you study it,
I have. I have.
I
For
understand
longer
that.
than
I
you've been
understand that.
alive. For longer than you've been alive. In
I
multiple
understand that.
languages.
Okay.
I have it open right now.
And you've determined that the God of the Bible is unrighteous?
No,
Through reading the
well,
Bible?
I've determined that the character of God in the Bible is an immoral thug, an idiot, and a buffoon in many cases, and on some other occasions, not that. But what I have determined is that there is no reason to think that that being exists. And there's no reason to think that the Bible is an accurate representation of the words of any God. And I'm asking you why I should.
Well, Matt, I've studied the Bible just as you, and let me tell you that the God that I find in the Bible is completely holy, perfect,
Really?
righteous.
So when he drowns the
Yeah, he
entire
is.
world, when he drowns the entire world, that's holy. When he advocates for slavery, that's holy. When he has David's wives raped, that's holy. When he adds substitutionary atonement, when he comes down and takes human form and impregnates a virgin and sacrifices himself to himself as a bloody offering because he likes the smell of burnt offerings and demands that people adhere to him, you think all of that's holy?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're an immoral fuck as well, because anybody who's going to advocate for the slaughter of innocents is immoral as fuck.
Who's
Anybody who's
innocent,
going to
Matt?
advocate,
Nobody's innocent
anybody
according
who's
to
going
the
to,
Bible.
anybody
We're
who's
all
going to,
guilty.
anybody who's going to advocate for raping someone's wives as a punishment is grossly immoral. You should go fuck yourself right now for that one.
Matt, the Bible says that we've all sinned against God. We all deserve death
George,
from the day we
I
were
know
born.
what the Bible says, you dumb motherfucker. Listen up. I don't need you to tell me what the Bible says. You're telling me that when God has people raped and killed, it is holy. Fuck you.
I never said that. Where
You
does,
fucking,
where
you
does the Bible
liar.
say-
Now you're a fucking liar. No. It's all on tape. It is all, not tape. It's all recorded. It's going to live here on the
where
internet.
Did God say,
George, shut your
where
mouth.
Did God say in the Bible
George,
to rape? Where is that? What
in
verse are you talking
2
about?
Samuel, we've already talked about it a gazillion fucking times. 2 Samuel 12, God says, because David had sex with Bathsheba and had her husband killed, that as a punishment, he's going to kill their baby and have David's wives raped in public. You don't know your fucking Bible, studier. And I asked
they
you
weren't
if it was
raped.
holy.
If you mean by Absalom, they were not raped. They were not
You
raped.
don't think it's rape for God to force one person to have sex with 10 other people?
He didn't force him. Actually, Absalom did that on himself. He did that to protect the
God
kingdom.
caused it. The Hebrew words say God caused it.
God
That means
permitted
that
it.
God
permitted it. It's
set
different.
up. Shut up, George. Stop making excuses for your thug, rapist, piece of shit, fictional God. The Hebrew there specifically says that God will cause this to happen. That means that is there anything that God says he will cause that cannot happen? Is there anything that we can do to stop God from causing something to happen? The answer is no. You don't need to answer. I'll answer for you because I'm the only one in this conversation that can be honest. If God says he's going to cause something to happen, then it's absolutely going to fucking happen no matter what. How dare you pretend? But all right, let's just pretend for a second that all 10 of the wives that Absalom had sex with were all into it and it wasn't rape, so that you can try and come up with another excuse. Why is it holy for God to cause people to fuck other people in public in order to shame, embarrass, or punish somebody else? Why is it holy for God to kill a child of an affair in order to punish the fucker that had the affair? Go ahead. I'll give you your time now. And I'll go donate $50 because
Hey, man, I see you're a very intelligent person, and
I see you're not a very intelligent person. I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to explain to me how slaughtering the offspring of David and Bathsheba is holy. That's the only thing I want to hear from you right now. Tell us right now, everybody on the fucking planet is waiting for George to explain the holiness of a God that slaughters a baby from David and Bathsheba. Go.
Well, Matt, God is holy God, and all humans are born in sin. We all deserve death from the very day we were born, even before we were born. From conception, we deserve death because we're sinful from Adam and Eve, and we are sinful ourselves. So God doesn't owe anybody any second of life. You have to, recognize that. So God is God. He can take life. He says it from the book of Exodus. He says that he can take a life.
I'm going to mute you now, George. I'm going to mute you now, George. I'm going to mute you. You're making me too sad. The whole point was for you to defend why you think there's a God in the first place, and you couldn't do it. Instead, what you've done is provided a perfect demonstration of how religion absolutely poisons people's mind. A book that you can't demonstrate is true has managed to convince you that even if the being were real, no matter what it does, it's holy. And you're deserving of death from before you were born. It's convinced you were born broken. It was convinced you're undeserving of love. It's convinced you that acts of brutality are somehow holy. It has perverted your moral compass. It has poisoned your brain. It has made you and your self-worth reviled and beneath contempt to where you are now flagellating and taking punishment on yourself. It has done psychological harm and trauma to you. There's a trauma, it's called religious trauma syndrome. It's not in the DSM yet, but there are people trying to get it in there. Because thank you, George, for demonstrating how even the nicest, kindest, calmest Christians have their minds so completely fucked by this notion that a perfect God is too good for you, and you don't deserve shit, and you don't deserve anything but death, and you've deserved it from before you were born, and therefore it's okay for God to kill your babies when you sin. It's okay for God to have your wives assaulted when you sin. It's okay for God to allow for slavery. It's okay for every little thing that he does because he's holy. You have bought into a fiction that is gross and immoral, and it is a poison and a cancer on your mind and the mind of society. And I say that not because you're a bad person. You're probably not. You would probably not do any of these things. But you're willing to give up your self-respect, your dignity, and your humanity to the concept of a being that is grossly immoral, that any child could see is immoral. You would never teach your kid that what that being did is good if it weren't for the fact that your brain has been poisoned and you no longer have a moral compass. I hope you find some help, George. You are an embarrassment to human decency, and it's not your fault. You're an embarrassment to human decency because somebody has sold you a bill of goods, because you don't understand enough about how the cell works, and you don't have all the answers that you want, or you think that the universe can't happen, or life can't happen, or this can't happen, or we can't be moral. You can't be moral with Christianity, sir. I am more moral than your God. I am more moral than your entire religion. I am smarter than the God in your Bible. I'm a better human being than the God in your Bible. And you know what? So are you, George. Start fucking acting like it. Goodbye. Okay. I'll donate $50 for the first one. I'm not donating for that one.
Yeah, I want to apologize to the chat. I let George talk way too long when you kind of turned it over to me, because I was under the impression he was going to get to a point, and he never did. I didn't know he was just going to try and give me a sermon, but I should have been.
No, you're good.
Should have been wise to that. But yeah, yeah, I concur with everything you said. I mean, that the belief system that he subscribes to, it makes people abdicate their empathy for other. How can you feel anything for other people if no matter what happens, we deserve it by virtue of existing?
Billy Kid in chat just said Matt's own trauma must be intense, man. Actually, I don't have religious trauma. Nothing bad ever happened to me because of it. My empathy and watching people deal with the trauma, watching people who've done this, my suffering that you witness is from watching the harm it does to other people and the frustration of not finding a way to get them to see it. It's like being in a room surrounded by 20 heroin users, and you're trying to help all of them, and none of them will listen, and none of them will be honest.
Because it feels good.
Yeah. It's nice to think you're loved, to think there's somebody who knows all the answers. It's nice to think that when you're dead, it's not over. It's nice to think that there's somebody out there who's so good that they can make you better. The problem is, it's making you worse. I don't suffer from personal religious trauma. I never had a bad experience. All I wanted to do was be the best Christian I could be. All I wanted to do was offer the best defense to fulfill 1 Peter 3:15. I took it seriously. And what's frustrating is that we have failed as a society, as a culture. We have failed in our education system. We are not teaching people to think. We're not teaching people to think critically. We're not teaching them to think clearly. We have failed. And religions keep offering people comfort and a story. And as the world gets worse, those comforting stories have more appeal, even though they shouldn't. They have no more evidence, no more justification. And the worse the world gets, the more people flail about trying to reach it. And that makes the world worse. Anyway, I absolutely should not totally run for office, but thank you. I'm not qualified. That's the difference. I probably should, just because the people who are running for it aren't qualified either. They just don't seem to know it. Oh, I forgot to turn off that. How do you know there's a perfect God? But that's a reminder that that's the question we were trying to get him to, and nothing he said had any hope of ever getting anywhere near how he knew there was a perfect God. Hey, you ready to do some super chats?
Yeah, sure.
As long as you got time, we tend to, whoops. Let me set this up for this cue here. You're able to see them in Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Cool. If you want to read that one, I'll read the next one right after it.
Sure. Okay. So first super chat. Thank you so much for it. Greg Markowski's super chat of $10.999. Ship of Theseus. I have a friend who used to repair antique boats, and there are guidelines of how much you can replace before it ceases to be the same antique boat.
Okay, so we have maybe a modern solution to the Ship of Theseus problem. I'm glad somebody solved that. Thanks, Greg. From the Atheist Mechanic, $10. Thanks so much. You can't have freedom of religion without also having freedom from religion. Yeah, that's one of the key things. It is. Well, yeah, you're right. Thank you. We got a bunch of super chats to get to, and I don't want to. I'd love to keep each for like a year and just keep doing live calls and stuff, but she got kids and I got a wife and a dog, and so we want to get through these supers.
Okay, next one. Thank you so much, Aliyashana Silverbow. If I just butchered that name, I'm sorry. $10 super chat. Sometimes I think back on all the people I've lost along the way and remember why I stopped being a tour guide. That's a bit depressing.
Aliyashana is always here for a pun or a bit of levity to raise my mood. We absolutely adore her. Meg! Hey, Meg. Thanks for the $10. Does Adrian work an insurance company that recognizes what the actual fuck Wednesday or something. That's nice. Oh, thank you very much.
Next one, I don't know what that currency is. It says W. I'm not sure what that stands for, but thank you.
That's it should be Joshua Everett, $10.
Is it? I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. Yeah, I skipped one. That's Joshua Everett, 987. Thank you so much for the super chat, $10. To hear the failures of Texas public education in real time on a Wednesday night. Great show tonight. Thanks to both of you. Thank you.
If you're looking at it in the stream tool, go up to the top of that thing where the drop down thing is and pick the yellow one that says greater than 10. And then your list will match mine.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm setting them live and they're popping up in Zoom. Michaela Albertson, $10. Thank you so much. I'm a master's for a dermatologist. BCC most common, mostly resembles a pimple that doesn't heal after a few months, don't spread. Squamous cell. Okay. Squamous cell or more wart-like papules can spread to lymph nodes.
Oh.
Yes. I don't know crap. And yet, curiously, like I have friends who do, Justin's one of them, who know way more biblical stuff than I do. As a matter of fact, I have to look stuff up frequently because I've forgotten so much. And I will admit that nowadays I mostly remember the verses that are best to use against believers. I don't care to remember all the other ones. I'm definitely not going to bother with any begats. And so there are stories that I've read and studied and, but I don't need to keep them. I don't need that. So I have to look up refreshers. And yet still, it's like we get nobody in who actually knows their Bible. What they know instead is some version of some spin on it that isn't tied either to the original Hebrew or Greek or Aramaic, or that isn't tied. And by the way, Paula G and I are going to do a video soon where we're talking about gospel reliability. And then there's a number of different ways to look at that, which is your current understanding an accurate representation of the original intent? But before you can even bridge that gap, is your current translation accurate to the best translation? And is that accurate to the best oldest copy we have? And how accurate is that to the original, which we don't have?
Yeah.
And so when you start talking about, gospel fidelity to what? To the latest copy, to the best copy, to the oldest copy, to the original copy, to the original intent. It's a mess.
It's a translation of a translation of a translation.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Meg801, for the $10 super chat. Fuck it. LOL, Adrian, you're an absolute cunt muffin. Please go have the day you voted for. Matt and Peach, you're amazing and deserve the highest of fives for putting up with people like Adrian. I thought he was fun. Yes, he was dumb. Oh, I'm using the wrong hand.
That way. Yeah, there we go. We're high-fiving it. Thanks, Meg. Thanks a ton. I want to play some more Mecha Chameleon. Michaela Albertson. OK mole is a nevus. Then there's a dysplastic nevi that have atypical melanocytes, vary with mild, moderate, and severe, can evolve to melanoma stage 0, then invasive, typically new, darker, and enlarging. I love the fact that somebody who's, knows about basal cell carcinoma and all the potential problems was giving us good information at the time when I could have used it. And now it's just here to emphasize that I don't have my upper teeth in and don't know the words I'm saying. I sound really punny.
And thank you so much, the Atheist Mechanic, for a $10 super chat. It's awfully telling when theists want to say that we need to look to God, the Bible, for morals. My morality is far superior than God. Exactly. We already have that sense of justice from each other, from living in a society. If we lived by the Bible, God, it would be an absolute hellscape.
I have more information that's coming out about potentially about our president, and I want to say that based on what I've read in the Bible and what I've seen from Trump, Trump is a more godly man than I am, because they're
Not a
both
compliment.
fucking awful.
Yeah, not a compliment.
Michaela says skin cancer is preventable but very treatable. Pre-cancer, actinic keratosis can develop into skin. Oh, SCC.
I don't know what that stands for either.
Single cell carcinoma? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, typically recurring scaly peeling skin lesions treated with liquid nitrogen. Stay safe. I have scaly
Squamous
things on my
cell.
arm right now.
That's what my mom had.
Oh, yeah. I have little scaly things on my arm, but it's from my dog scratching me, and the fact that I'm diabetic, it takes much longer to heal, and the fact that I don't stop scratching at it. So I'm going to have scars on me for ages because I'm diabetic and I don't know, I fidget. Here we go.
Here we go. Yeah. And thank you so much, Deconstruction Zone, for the 1999 super chat. The Hebrew text in 2 Samuel 12 is God speaking in the causative, first person Hebrew stem, which means he is causing the trouble to be raised.
Look, Justin even put it there in Hebrew. I have it open, by the way.
So holy.
I have my, let me see. Can I put that up? I might not be able to right now. Yes, I can. Although you guys probably won't be able to see it properly. But this is 2 Samuel 12, where Nathan is rebuking David. And it's verse 11 specifically is where I'm going to bring trouble against you. This trouble will come from your own family. So it's this right here. I know you can't see all of it because we're in this one-up thing. But yeah, that is, by the way, the Bible tool that I keep talking about and using all the time. I have multiple, like you can see all of those are different Bible copies, Bible translations. So this is the English Revised. This is English Standard. This is the KJV 1611. This is the Greek Old Testament. This is the KJV with Bible dictionaries. So here for wife, you can see, you can look up the word, you can, boom, you can do all those things. It is an incredible tool that I love. And it's wild because ideally, I shouldn't care about studying. Why is it that I, as an atheist, who have been an atheist almost longer than I was a theist, I'm like coming up on the tipping point, still spend more time honestly looking into what the Bible says than virtually any Christian that ever calls?
Well, they don't read the Bible, because if they did, they very likely wouldn't be Christian to begin with.
Yep. Hey, this mechanic Matt, that law says Zen on George was justified. I feel the same kind of rage in those calls. Peach, it was great having you on. Amen. Hope to see you more. Be well, friends. Absolutely.
Thank you. And Chris Powell 8121, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It's so great to see Peach on here. You're awesome, Peach. Thank you. Thank you so much for making me read all that praiseworthy stuff about myself. That's not embarrassing at all.
It's how they lure you in, because you'll be as uncomfortable as I am and Jimmy is while it's happening, and then later on you'll be like, "That was actually kind of fun. I want to go back and do it again and do better, so that maybe I'll feel like I earned what they said," because I do that all the time. SJL, $10. That is very kind. We appreciate it. Never mind the subjective versus objective moral argument. Religion does not have morality. It only has rule following. Yeah, it is. At best, it might be viewed as divine command theory. In other views, sometimes it is just, oh, this is the nature of God. The problem is I don't have access to the nature of God. I don't have access to the words of God. And until somebody tells me how I can have access to the nature of God or the words of God, they don't get to cite those. They might as well be saying, oh, here's your moral source. It's locked up in a place that you can't get to. well, then it does me no good. How did you get yours? Oh, I went and got it. Cool. Show me how. Oh, I can't. I mean, it's like your moral foundation is your girlfriend who goes to a different school, so we don't know her. I mean, that's how it is.
And Femboy Arch User, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I believe that Zen was maintained tonight. That was a proportional response to what George said. Also, happy 27th to me. Couldn't have wished for a better show tonight. Well, happy birthday to you.
There you go. A round of applause for Femboy Arch User. I do not think that Zen was maintained tonight, but I do agree that that was a justified response. And even if it wasn't, yeah, let's not pretend like I'm not going to do that from time to time, because sometimes, like if you try to talk somebody out of something and you've used everything else at your disposal, if you've tried to lead them up to the edge, if you've asked them questions, if you've had them try to justify it, and what you get is roughly them putting their fingers in their ears saying, no, 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 God is holy, God is holy, God is holy, we are terrible, we deserve this, there's nothing that God could do that was wrong and nothing we could do. Once their fingers go in their ears, yelling is, you either yell or you stop. And I appreciate genuinely, this is not bullshit or anything, I appreciate genuinely the people who stop and the people who don't yell. I know that there are people who do this differently and often better. I know Eli was called into Chewed Gum last night with Taylor and Alyssa. And Taylor and Alyssa are both vastly nicer than I can ever hope to be. And so, yeah, he got the softball there. And I think my favorite thing from tonight was when he asked if I'm always like this. Like, I genuinely, I think it might have been, I mean, all right, it wasn't, having Peter on finally was, I like that more. But as far as from a caller, that was my favorite moment from a caller was, am I like this all the time? Piriform 42, $10 in real money from Canada. Vastly superior to our money now. Thank you for that, Matt. Very well done. George's dissonance is disturbing and also indicative. Yeah, it's a problem.
And Regato, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Great show, and Matt, I too am more loving and moral than the God of the Bible, but unlike that God, you and I are both real. Exactly.
I believe it. I believe it all. John, thanks for the $10, man. He is a God that brings destruction in the world, requires sacrifices, bloodshed, and the final blow, having a son brutally murdered. That is true power, and he is truth. Amen. He is the truth.
Yeah, where do
Sweet.
I sign up?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess one of the ways you can tell I'm not a real man is I'm neither going to demand a human sacrifice or offer one or expect one or excuse one. And if that's what a real man is, cool. I'm happy to not be one.
And Regato again, thank you for the $10 super chat. Also, Matt, if you make it to RocketCon in Huntsville, will there be any Matt magic? I will try not to go all Penn and Teller on you if so.
I guarantee you, if I make it to Rocket City Reason, which, by the way, Rocket City Reason, you can go to rocketcityreason.com. That's October 23rd through 25th in Huntsville, Alabama. That's an upcoming convention. September 19th is AHA Con. And Baja Con is this weekend, so that's in Sarnia, Ontario. And Black Non-Believers C-Con, BNC Con, is November 28th through December 6th. If I do make it to Rock City Reason, I guarantee you I will be happy to perform some magic for people who ask, but I don't think it's likely I will be. I might, who knows? If I get there and John and Casey want me to go up and do like a trick, I might do that. But I'm not doing what I did at NanoCon, which was to pack up an entire 2-hour stage show in the truck, drive it all the way up there, set it all up, and do a 2-hour magic show. I will do that again, I hope. But I'm not going to be doing that for Rocket City Reason.
I love magic shows.
Oh, here.
Oh my God.
It's a miracle. All right. Here's $5 for the crash out donation, Matt. In a truly empathetic society, I think it should be considered child abuse to teach I do too, to teach your kids they were born broken. It's the first memory I can recall. It's not the first memory I can recall, but I had friends that were that way. There's definitely, there are things wrong with me. I'm definitely weird in a number of different ways. Whether or not I'm on a spectrum, you can coin toss to find out who thinks I am, who thinks I'm not. Any testing I've taken puts me close, but never diagnosed. And honestly, I don't care. I'm not afraid to find out either way. It doesn't matter. I'm already different no matter what category I fall into, because there was a period of time where I couldn't cry. Now I can. There was a period of time where I bought into lies. And now, hopefully, I find it much more difficult to buy into lies. I care less whether something is comforting than whether it's warranted or justified. And so I remember, like, I had a passion for saving people. But it wasn't because I was like, oh no, I'm terrified my friends are going to go to hell. Some of my friends were like that. And some people in the atheist community I've talked to were like that. They're like, oh, when I grew up, I would cry at night about my friends that were going to hell. I didn't want them to go to hell. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely child abuse. The way it was done to me didn't result in me crying because my friend was going to hell. It resulted in me witnessing to my friends and trusting that God would save them in his own time. And so there wasn't anything to be, somebody saying I missed a super chat. Dumadani, I'll look real quick. Let me pop this one up.
Okay. And thank you so much for the $10 Canadian super chat, Pureform 42. Great show. Both hosts were awesome. Peach, haven't watched you before, but really enjoyed your approach. Hope to see you again. The Evangelicals, perhaps, and other shows, of course. Well, thank you so much. I definitely would love it to do it again, and maybe even start doing some lives on my own channel. Haven't fully decided yet, but I've just kind of been toying with that idea for the last 10 years.
Danny, can you tell me which name it was submitted under? Joshua. I'm not seeing.
Who's asking about the super chat? What's the
So
username?
Duma Danny asked, but Kia Star said it's at Josiah Crenwelge 8059, and I'm not seeing that super chat. We'll see what Arden's looking. Jacques Chancellor, $10. Thank you so much. Good evening to you both. Matt, I followed your work for multiple years. Your ability to follow a combo and your note-taking skills are impressive. Can you please teach me? Thank you. I would, but I don't have any time. Here's the thing. Convince yourself that you're gradually getting stupider and losing your mind and forgetting more things than you actually are, and force yourself to take notes. That's how I did it. But also, I've been doing this for many, many years.
And Godless Engineer, hello. Thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Matt would be interested in hearing your compare and contrast between that Bible app and gebible.app Lemma. I'm not sure what that is, which tries to do that but better.
So, that's John. John, between now and Rocket City, Arden, can we get John on a hang up between now and Rocket City, and we'll pimp out GE Bible a little bit too.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would love to talk about John's Bible app. This one, however, is on the PC and is robust and has a gazillion dictionaries and cross references, and you're only seeing a little part of it. If John's Bible app does all of that too,
Weird. Awesome. I did find the super chat from our fan funding page on YouTube, the fan funding tab of our chat. It's not getting picked up by our system though, and I don't know why. It was $9.99 from Josiah Krun Welch, who said, I think therefore I am, and that is dependent on reason being reasonable. Is there a problem of the act of thinking? Wait. Is there a problem of the act of thinking means there must be something external, irrespective of being reasonable, or that's where it cuts out.
Okay, so Descartes' cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, was essentially the attempted solution to hard solipsism in some sense, in that I know I exist. I am a knowing thing. I am self-aware, which means I must exist. And the only problem I ever heard anybody present with that was, I think it was Hobbes that pointed out, that is contingent on the primacy of reason. But also, that's true for every reasoned argument. And so, since we can't get past the problem of induction, we can't show that reason is absolutely reasonable. We just assume it is, and it continues to keep demonstrating that it is. This is the reason I say you can't be absolutely certain about anything, but you can be maximally certain. And I define maximal certainty as all certainty within the bounds of whatever the limits of reason are. If that turns out to be absolute, cool. We just can't demonstrate that. I hope that answered your question. And if not, I apologize. Send me an email. And since I didn't get to read it, that's as close as I can do off the top of my head. Oh, I put this one up anyway because they subscribe to you, Peach.
Oh, thank you so much. So, and
well, Shannon as well.
Yeah, and Shannon Q. Thank you so much. Yes, please check me out if you are so inclined. It's at Peach Braxton.
At Peach Braxton. Here we go. K Kingdom. $10. Thank you so much. The Bible's writings are the equivalent to Rome's magical origins. It just had a more spread violence tactic. I couldn't say. I don't think all venerated holy books are the same or on the same footing. But yeah, it's certainly similar. I mean, these are things where we try to describe and chronicle our origins and the stories we've heard and the stories that we think make us us. And quite often it's about what makes us different from them. And I think that probably one of the best things that we can do is all of these religions, and they're not all this way, but all of these religions that are built on narratives that are divisive, that are us and them, all we should ever have to say is, it's just us. It's about us, not us and them. We're all in this together. This is one of the things secular humanism offers up from the beginning, which is, even if there is a God, it is apparent that we humans are here to solve our problems on our own, and that we can't rely on divine intervention or supernatural stuff to fix our problems. And when you take into consideration things like John Rawls' veil of ignorance, where you design the system you're going to live in, not knowing who you're going to be, hey, do you allow racism as a good thing? Do you allow sexism as a good thing? Do you allow homophobia as a good thing? Do you allow transphobia as a good thing in your society? Remember, you might come in of a minority race or a minority view or a homosexual or transgender. So it makes sense. This is basic game theory. This is the pinnacle of the universe isn't going to be fair in any sense other than it's not going to give a fuck about any of us. And we have no reason to think that the supernatural things, if they're real, are any more likely to work towards fairness. And so it's up to us to do it. And it doesn't mean fairness of outcome as much as opportunity and justice and individual autonomy, freedom. And that's like 7 sermons tonight. So we'll end there on that sermon. Thank you guys so much for the super. Wait, did I get them all? Yes. Thank you guys so much for the super chats to all of our screeners and mods. I see. I could do like the romper room thing. I see Shannon Q. I see Godless Engineer. Let me scroll up and see who else I see. Do I see Galatia? I did earlier, I thought.
You know, I actually was on Romper Room.
Were you really on Romper Room?
Yeah, when I was 4.
I see Peach. I'm going to get me one now. Anyway, huge thanks to everybody. Like, subscribe, join the channel. You can go to patreon.com/callableline. You can support us there. You can also go to linemerch.com. And there are a number of shows throughout the week. Peach will definitely be getting Peach back. Thank you so much. But tomorrow is the Transatlantic Call-In Show. If you have questions about trans issues, if you've been called a transphobe and you're proud of it, or if you've been called a transphobe and you'd like to avoid it, tomorrow is a great opportunity to call in and talk to 2 real-life trans folks who will explain to you why you're fucked up or why you're awesome or how you can be better and how you can stop shitting on them and using them as a prop to prop up fascists and scare the piss out of everybody when they just mostly like to be left alone and increase their expected lifespan.